Gematria Effect with Zachary Hubbard. America's Evil Genius with Travis Cook. Phoenix Rising Radio with Phoenix. Quantum Connections with Lucky. And dozens more. Did you know you can listen from any telephone by dialing 641-793-7117? Or call into your favorite show, toll free at 833-TFR Live. Uncensored talk and news you won't hear in the mainstream media. Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.
Hurricane Florence, tell-all book. I'm Ann Cates. Hurricane Florence, now a Category 4, is bearing down on the Carolinas. Meteorologist Allison Chinchar says the big issue with Florence is the rain.
If this storm slows down once it makes landfall and stays pretty much stationary for a few days, or even if it does move, but it just doesn't move very fast, it has the potential to dump a significant amount of rain. Widespread amount, about 10 to 15 inches. It is not out of the question for some of these areas to receive over 20 inches of rain.
More than 1 million people are under evacuation orders. A tell-all book about the Trump White House is being released tomorrow.
Chief of Staff John Kelly is quoted as calling President Trump an idiot. Defense Secretary James Mattis, according to Bob Woodward, told others the president had the understanding of a 5th or 6th grader. Woodward, sticking by the quotes, has faced a wave of denials, as Press Secretary Sarah Sanders was happy to point out.
Many of the book's sources have already spoken out to refute, and a number of people have come out and said that Woodward never even reached out to corroborate statements that were attributed to them.
Like the New York Times piece, Woodward's book also paints some key aides as taking action to prevent the president from acting on impulse. Bob Costantini, Washington.
A summit underway in St. Louis is focusing on election security. Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen.
We cannot underestimate the efforts of our adversaries. We cannot assume that what they're doing today is what they will do tomorrow. So I ask you to learn and for all of us to get better and better as they learn and get better in their attempts against us.
Nielsen says Homeland Security can offer states cost-free assistance on technical matters and risk and vulnerability assessment of their election systems. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 59 points. The S&P 500 gained 5. The Nasdaq closed up 22 points. I'm Ann Cates.
Truth Frequency Radio.
The wicked ones obviously under heavy Masonic influence.
Astronauts to the moon.
Ten, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Not to get off track here, but I feel like we're in the Truman Show, and we're in a snow globe, and they just shook it up.
Welcome to reality.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and children of all ages. You are tuned into your protection from deception. That's right here at truthfrequencyradio.com. And open wide and say, because you are receiving the correct, magically encoded airwave signals to be in the reception range for the #1 show on TFR on Monday nights between the hours of 6 and 9 p.m. Pacific, 9 to midnight Eastern. That show is Jeranism Monday Night Raw, and it starts ahora. Hola, mi nombre Jeranimo Campanella, el host of el show. Y a la mi derecha está nadie. Y a la mi izquierda está nadie. Si montando solo. Insert the sound effect for riding solo, which I don't have ready. But let's pretend that I did. Anyway, I'm not currently living La Vida Solo. Living La Vida Loca, yes. And that I do have ready for you. So yes, but I'm not living la vida solo. See, mi esposa especial, mi esposa Miss Amazing, mi esposa muy mal y muy sucia. No, I'm kidding, of course. Kidding. But Missa did surprise me and came home recently, actually Thursday night, the evening when I was returning home from my test. Missa was home. Surprise! But long story short, we've decided to take it slow, take it a step at a time. So now many people out there will be extremely happy with that. Maybe many not so much. Let me tell you a unique thing that happens being a host on this show, being somebody who does YouTube videos, doing all these fun, exciting things that many others would like to. But one of the fun things about it is the amount of emails I get and messages are staggering, number one. Number two, it gives me a really unique insight into other people's lives, something that I don't think many people get the luxury of. So, for instance, if you've got a decision to make or you've got something going on in your life, sometimes it's very hard to reach out. And obviously, we've kind of done more than reach out. We've kind of put our entire lives out for, here, come look at this spectacle, kind of deal. But one of the important things about that is when I get so many messages from people, I really get an insight into so many people's lives that otherwise I wouldn't have had. One of the things I noticed is I think something that maybe inside we all think happens very rarely or isn't as prevalent as it might be. I found out that there is many people in many relationships that have gone through such hardship. One of the things I thought was impressive was that only one person, believe it or not, said to me in an email, and I got upwards of like over 40, but one of those people in an email said that they had never cheated nor been cheated on. And surprisingly, that is the only person I've ever met or ever heard of that said that. So, I mean, in my earlier life, I definitely did what you would call cheating. Not happy about it, but it happened. But I think many people, that might be a high 90s kind of percentage thing where people who have cheated or been cheated on. Very rare that somebody has not. So just interesting when you start to dial into what a lot of these people have said and that they all have gone through this and their outlook on it, it helps immensely. So I do want to say thank you to all those who have emailed me or Missa or anybody who has contacted us and sent well wishes. I appreciate it so much. So Missa is here, but she's not on the show. And kind of what we're going to do, just because it's fun this way, is we're going to play it out like it's a cliffhanger. Well, because as everybody knows, I do this all for money, of course, right? So we're figuring the way to go with this is to kind of lead up to some big reveal, either, but no, I'm kidding, of course. For those who think that I do this for money, we could look at my financials if we want. Let's look at last month. So let's look at last month on TFR. And just so you know, the way that we make money on this show right here, TFR, your number one show on Monday nights between 6 and 9 Pacific, 9 to midnight if you are on the shittier coast. So here's the way that works. If you sign up for a package deal, you become a VIP subscriber, if you will. You get every show ever done by myself for $10 a month. What a steal. Now, get this. I'm going to go ahead and throw in, if you were to purchase a package to a VIP deal right here on TFR right now, I'll throw in every show Chris and Cherie Gio have ever done. Unbelievable. Wait, hold on. I'm getting something in my earphones. What? You really want to do that? All right. They just added every show ever done by Rob Skiba. It's Rob Skiba, myself, Chris and Cherie Gio, every show ever done, $10 a month. What? No, you got to be kidding me. All right, then want me to throw in Mark Sargent. We're throwing in Mark Sargent, which is just, can't be. Are you serious? Paul on the Plane. We just threw in Paul on the Plane. Brooks Agnew himself just got thrown into the mix. Every show he's ever done, even the one where he told me he can turn on the cameras on Mars rover by himself. Even that show, you can find that if you go in the archives. What? Susan Lindauer? Every show? Unbelievable. I don't even know what to say. Every show ever done in the history of TFR is being thrown in. If you become a VIP member for $10 a month, you get every show ever done on TFR. Unbelievable deal. I mean, I don't know. If you're not a VIP member, you probably are now. Or now. At the very least now. So welcome to the VIP members only section. No, I'm just kidding. If you actually listen live Monday nights between the hours of 6 and 9 p.m. Pacific, 9 to midnight, shittier coast, what you get is you get this for free. So if you're listening for free, congratulations, you get it for free. But just so you know how we make money is if you sign up under tfrlive.com/Jeranism RAW, we get 50% of that. The station gets 50%. That's how they roll. That's how they make sure that we are all well equipped and happy and, live in luxury and drive in Porsches. No, probably not that so much. Let's think about how much money I made last month, which was the month of August. And that is for all of August, by the way. We made on this show $65. Now, don't go screaming and yelling, and don't think that we're just shaking our head at that and saying that's nonsense, because it is $65 that we didn't have if we weren't doing this show. So, and really when you look at it, you're like, well, if we get half and a sign-up's $10, well, that's like half of that's like $130 that we made for the station for the month. And that's really cool. And then we get half that. We make 65. They make 65. Fantastic. What an awesome little payment plan for us. So that's why we figure at $65 an hour, I'm going to do some quick math here. I mean, $65. Yeah, I wish it was an hour. $65 a month. And we do 3-hour shows, 4 of them, correct? Is that how you figure out your monthly income? So we do 4 weekly shows of 3 hours each for a total of 12 hours of monthly entertainment for you, yours, your family, your abuela, your cousin, and your prima Mary. All of them. Okay, 12 hours a month of excellent footage, coverage of whatever you want to call it. Excellent banter by me, if I may say so myself. And this is in my complete unbiased, opinion, of course. So 12 hours a month and $65 a month. That comes out to, if I'm not mistaken, it's about $5.50 an hour. Yeah, so that's not bad. Oh wait, there's 2 of us. Well, if Miss is here and you want to count that, then it's a little worse. It's like $2.75 an hour. It's not very good. So what we're trying to do is we're going to cliffhanger the whole story, draw it out for like a few weeks. Maybe we can make $130, and that would equal $5.50 an hour each, which is close to minimum wage, which is like really close. So clearly, I'm doing this for money. Clearly, the story's for money, obviously. Clearly, the channel's for money. Anybody out there, if you're broke, you don't know how you're going to get by, how are you going to, pay for that next tank of gas? Make Flat Earth YouTube videos. Just do that. Get demonetized on all of them. And then, hopefully you can scrounge up enough after you have a show like this on TFR where you make $2.25 an hour. Boom, done. Easy. Just solve that one. So for anybody who's waiting to find out the end of that story, you're going to have to wait. It's a cliffhanger. We don't know. We're taking it a day at a time. But I do want to say thank you to everyone listening to the show. Thank you no matter where you may be. Those upside down, as always. Down in Australia or maybe New Zealand, welcome to the show. Happy to have you join us, and also those people perpendicular. Could be in Mozambique. You could be in Hawaii. You could be in the way of some tornado. Wherever you are, I hope you are safe, and that is from the bottom of my heart. And I thank you for joining me no matter where you might be, in your car, in a boat, probably doing some sort of hang gliding, GoPro off a cliff thing, and you couldn't possibly do it without your headphones in and Jeranism Monday Night Raw on the radio. So welcome to the show. Happy that you are joining me. We're going to do a first hour or so. We're going to listen to a recent interview. You might have heard it. You may have not. But I thought there were some important things said in that. Also, I will be taking calls, but we're going to be doing that the second half of the show. So get in line, get geared up, get whatever question you want to ask me. And again, as always, one of my faults is I've always said you can ask me anything you want. And that phone number is 213-233-3998. Again, I would like to wait a little bit, line up everybody together. This way I know I'm taking calls, and boom, corral all my energy and my focus and my attention in that direction. That's what's going on. Yes. Let's see. We are. Wait, somebody's very confused about the coasts and which one is the shittier one here in the chat. So we can talk about that later. But clearly, just because you got to the one closest to where you were coming from, as you crossed the water and just got to the East Coast. Okay, we're here. Let's just stay here. Everybody just stay here. That doesn't make it the better coast. It actually makes it like the forced coast, like this is where you have to end up. Like where else are you going to be? I mean, sure, you could go down south and never land in America, and then be called Columbus, and then get credit for discovering the country that you never stepped foot in, and then kill a bunch of the natives and do all kinds of terrible things, like pretend like you're God and you make eclipses happen, and then have Neil deGrasse get on Joe Rogan's show and actually have the balls to say it was the greatest thing in the history of mankind, I believe is what he said, which is just an insane thing for an insane person to say. The fact that we still have a Columbus Day is in and of itself insane. So that's what I can tell you about that. So we're going to listen to this interview, and then you're going to line up, if you want, for the second half of the show. Call in, ask away. We could do a love line. I'm probably the number one person in the country right now to answer any relationship-oriented questions. And what else could we do? But anything you want to ask. If you want to ask about last Thursday, that was the test that we did with the IR camera. So big shout out to everyone who came and helped. I really appreciate that. And to Josh, who drove up the IR modded P900, which was an amazing thing. If you want to do that to your camera, go to like Wendell's channel or Nathan's got a channel, both where I think they've done it live for you. I think also a few other people that I know of that have done that. But what they've done is done kind of a show for it live. I think Wide Awake did it, but basically showed you how to retrofit or to mod your P900 to make it a infrared camera, and it was unbelievable. We shined it across, or aimed it across the water. We were 25 miles apart from Pacific Grove over to Aptos area, and when you do that, you can look up with your eyes right in front of you, and clearly there's nothing there. You can see across the water, you can see sky, but by then looking in the lens or the viewfinder or the little digital screen, you actually see, amazingly, mountains and homes and cities and farmland. It's just crazy, unbelievable. Now, what were the results of that test? If you remember, what I was trying to do is we had somebody on the beach who was about 15 feet off the water, maybe 10 feet, who had a mirror, who was using it like a heliograph to try and signal the sun, which was setting behind me. I was 25 miles away, up 40 feet high, and there should have been, according to the curvature calculator, I want to say 300 or 400 feet of curvature, and it might have been with our two heights. I'm kind of confused now. With the two heights, I think 150 was the amount of curvature. So you put in my 40-foot height, you put in their 14-foot height, and actually going back now, looking at it, we were actually 30 feet high, but regardless. And what happened was when we peer through the camera and through the viewfinder, we saw what many people would call a wall of water. You see that top level of the water has covered completely the beach. So to do the experiment that I was doing, obviously we failed at that experiment because there is no line of sight from 40 feet high across the body of water and then seeing through basically that wall of water. Now, many people might say, what exactly is that wall of water, Jeran? Why is there a wall of water? Well, here's the next part of the test, and unfortunately, I don't live near the Monterey Bay like I used to. When I did, that was awesome. It was a 30-minute drive. Now it's about a 2-hour and 30-minute drive, or actually it's almost 3 hours. But that's just a pain in the butt to do often. But if anybody is down in that area, one of the things you'd want to do is you'd want to go out to the same location like I was over at Lover's Point in Pacific Grove and film what we saw and film it every single day or twice a week or 4 times a month, whatever, to see if that line of water, which is clearly definable. I mean, it is a clearly seen where you can see water and where you begin seeing the land behind it. Now, the problem that we were having, or the issue that we have, is clearly we were seeing well under 150 feet, let alone anywhere close to the 300 or 400 that you're supposed to see. That would require us seeing 40 miles back. If you've kind of been to that area, you would know what I'm talking about. But you would have to see deep into those hills. And what we were seeing is hard to say you could make it out. So when I say that with the IR filter, you'd be able to, you can see mountains and you can see farmland, but to make it out and say that is this identifiable area and this is that identifiable area will take a little bit more work. But the other thing is that line clearly moves, and it moved throughout the day from when we got there at say 5 p.m. to when we left there at say 8:30 p.m. The line of water moves. And if you've ever seen it's called, oh boy, what is the name of that bay? There's a name of a video. Let me think for a second. My mind is going blank. Geez, what is the name of that? Anybody in the chat know what I'm talking about? The stupid video that has the water that goes up and down. Something bay. What can I not think? My head is killing me. What is going on? That is upsetting. I don't remember the name of it. Anyway, I'll get it for you at one of the commercials. There is a video that we've shown on many different videos. We've shown on Globebusters. I've shown it on mine. That you can look up and you can actually see that from 8 a.m. through 8 p.m., the water rises and lowers in regards to the land behind it. At one point, completely covering the land. At another point, dropping. So what is the interesting thing there is if we are living on a ball Earth, which I know so many people believe and many people think this is ridiculous to talk about, I understand all your frustrations with it because it is something that was taught to all of us. So we all had those kind of reactions to it. And then when you start to see why it may be the case that we were taught all those things, then you would understand why it's being brought up. But one of the reasons why is if we do have a humped Earth, if we have a curved Earth, if we live on a sphere, and there is walls of water or the hump of water blocking items on the other side, then that line would remain consistent, okay? Meaning that the ocean is not rising and setting in some sort of massive wall-like way that is really changing the view to where when we went there, like I said, we couldn't see the beach, but the beach is between 10 and 20, 30 feet off the water, whereas we were seeing what's behind the beach, what's, the trees, the what's right behind the beach. And so if you went out and you did a couple days worth of observations and that line, the water line, moved, say, down sometimes to where you could see the beach, other times it was up higher onto the trees, that right there is a devastating blow. Of course, like I said, I'd have to get out there more to do that myself, and to make that assumption that that's what we would see would be a little bit presumptuous. And so I won't necessarily say that. I will just say it certainly would be interesting, and that's what I've seen on other videos, is that line does change. And simply, then the question needs to become, well, why is there that wall of water there? Well, many people have discussed that as well. We'll just have to go and take that journey when we get there. But, there is that lensing effect, and if you are looking through the lensed atmosphere right above the water, could it be reflecting the water right behind it, causing what should be air to be a reflection of the water? Hard to explain. I understand if you don't get it. I understand if you think that the Earth's a ball, because the government, they've lied to us about everything, right? Everybody has lied to us about everything that there ever was. But the one thing, damn it, that they're telling the truth about is the place that we can't go. The place that we can't see, the place that we can't double check for ourselves, damn it, that's what they're telling me the truth about. So I don't know about you people, but for me, I second guess everything on Earth, all the things that I can double check, but anything outside of that, like space and the planets, I'm just a full-fledged believer in whatever mainstream says, because I can't go there and I can't double check it, and they lie to me about the things I can. So the thing that I can't double check, they must tell the truth about. That's the way I look at it. No, if you didn't understand that was all very bad sarcasm, I think that's a crazy person belief. I think it's crazy to get to the point, at any point in your life, realize that you've been lied to about most things, okay? And then ask yourself the question of the places that you can't go and the things that you can't verify and the speeds that you can never attain. And, the whole idea, again, needs to come from a place of just complete submissive, complete giving up on your senses in exchange for what man has told you. And to me, I'm not ready to make that move yet. As I've said many times before on the show, it's important to me for them to prove it to me. Prove to me that as the Earth spins, so does the entire atmosphere. And while the entire atmosphere spins, so does the helicopter that is hovering above the Earth. Okay? If you think I have crazy beliefs, think about what you believe simply because you've been told it. That's the crazy part, is I just have beliefs based on what I see around me. I don't feel like I'm moving. Do you? No? Okay, great. We're not moving. Boom. Easy. Prove to me that we are. I look around and I say that the Earth looks this way, or that things seem to be to my senses a certain way or another. I can see the stars. They're right there at night. They're right above me. Planets right above me. Now I'm being told, oh, that Venus light over there is the same size as Earth. Okay, prove it to me. Prove it. And I don't get any of that proof. And that's a huge red flag to me, because I understand mathematics and I understand how easy it is to look at angular sizes in the sky and make them up into whatever glorious story you want to tell. Whatever story you want to tell the world about the lights in the sky, you can, because we can't go there. So to me, that's the crazy belief, is to take that step and say, yeah, I believe that a helicopter hovering off the ground moves along with the Earth. Well, what's moving it? Well, it's the gravity. See, so the gravity is so strong, it's holding the column of air. That is, you stand there, column of air coming up from the ground up, goes up, helicopter hovering 100 feet above your head. It stays there. Up above it, 40,000 feet high, a jet aircraft is in the sky, and the entire column moves with the Earth as it spins. Makes no sense. And then they tell us, oh, there's Coriolis force. Oh, what's that from? Well, the Coriolis force is because of the spin. It causes the wind. Wait, hold on a second. I thought that the whole column of air is moving with the Earth. If that's true, there is no Coriolis force. Sorry. There's no deflection. Where's the deflection coming from? Everything is moving with the moving Earth. Throw a pencil in the sky. It's moving with the column of moving Earth that's moving along with it. Explain it. I get no explanations. I get no good reasonings. I get a lot of mumbo jumbo, a lot of word salad, a lot of nonsense. And so I'll keep continuing. By the way, that's extra word usage, a penalty, 25 yards, repeat, second down. And here's the thing, is that my hope would be that people would respect my desire to want to see that through till we get an answer one way or the other. So many people have emailed me and said, you have so much more to offer. Move on from flat Earth. You got stuck on flat Earth. You do better videos when you do about false flags. You do better videos when you research this, that, or this. You're too stuck to the flat Earth. And that's fantastic for you. And if I don't want to say I don't care, because I really don't care. I don't know how to word that any more clear. Then it doesn't matter to me. I guess it matters in a way that I say, I wish that you would respect that, or I would hope that you would respect that, but I really don't care. So, because I think it's important for each of us to believe what we believe, because we have come to that conclusion based on our own research, our own exploring of the world. And for some reason, that seems to me to be something that is not wanted like they want you to believe. People say, oh, science is open. Anybody can go. You can go out and do science. Anybody's a scientist. Yeah, you can go out, but you can't submit papers. And you can't do the things that is going to get your stuff propelled in the scientific world, because you're not part of that club. You're not part of that group. The group that has been fully indoctrinated into that belief. This is the way it is. The planets have to be this far because that's what we were taught, and that's the equations we were given. And that's as far as we get. Pretty sad to me. So I just hope people are okay with the fact that I'm going to continue on searching it until I find an answer. And it's also something where I could have filmed what we saw with the water covering the part of the hill, taken part of that and just rewound it over and over again, like Soundly, calling it Soundly's elevator, and just say, here's the curve of the Earth. There it is. Easy. But I'm not that way. I'm looking for truth. Right here, Jeran.
Hey everyone, it's Chris Gio, founder of Truth Frequency Radio and host of Beyond the Veil. The mainstream media and establishment are running scared right now, and they've prominently featured TruthFrequencyRadio.com as number 89 on the federal government's hit list, also known as the fake news list, which is essentially a list of sites slated for censorship on Facebook, YouTube, Google, and other social media. Now is the time for you to get involved. Share your favorite TFR shows far and wide on forums and social media. Tell your friends and family about your favorite shows. If you're a business owner, get in touch with us to feature your product or service right here on TFR. And if you haven't done so already, become a TFR supporter now and get unlimited commercial-free downloads in high quality. Visit truthfrequencyradio.com/signup. Thank you for making TFR the leader in independent and uncensored talk radio. Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.
Shipping and processing, return postage extra, auto ship and other terms apply. Ladies, here's a number that could really scare you. It scares me. 46. That's 46 million women who suffer from hair loss. That's more than 1 in 3 of us. If your hair is shedding, breaking, thinning, even falling out, you need to do something about it now because it will get worse. Some of the hair you lose will never grow back, so you can't afford to wait any longer. Here's the good news. Keranique, the #1 women's hair regrowth system in America and bestseller at Ulta stores nationwide that's clinically proven to thicken, strengthen, and repair hair, is letting 1 million women try Keranique risk-free through this special radio offer. Just dial *243 on your mobile phone to try Keranique risk-free for a full 30 days. You don't have to accept hair loss. You can take control to reverse hair loss and grow back your hair. Just dial *243 right now to start regrowing the thicker, fuller hair you love. Dial *243 to try Keranique for yourself risk-free. Hurry, this offer will not last long. Dial * and the number 243. Dial *243.
I bring you a message few of you will be able to believe, a message I alone was able to read in the fires of the universe. I also bring you the means with which to save yourselves.
What are you selling, Mr. Snake Oil?
Bring your friends here.
My name's Jimmy, and every Friday and Saturday night, right here on True Frequency Radio, at midnight Pacific, straight out of Santa Cruz, California, I'm cooking up a fresh edition of Into the Microcosm. It's not just a show, ladies and gentlemen. It's an adventure. Every Friday and Saturday night. Your #1 alternative to the alternative and the underground. www.tfrlive.com. Good times ahead. See you there.
No hate, no hype, no fear. We are TFR, your protection from deception.
Yes, and a big welcome back, and a big thank you also to LBB Store in the chat, who came up with the correct answer, as if I was quizzing you, on a Skunk Bay is the name of the bay where the flat Earth footage can be found. And what we're basically showing you is if you just go to the YouTubers and type in Skunk Bay Flat Earth or Skunk Bay Time Lapse, you will see, I think it's about a 4.5 minute one. Let me see which one I'm bringing up here. Yeah, this one's 4.5 minutes, and it is on, well, this particular one's on Ron Hagberg's channel. But if you watch, the Skunk Bay footage starts out at like 8 a.m., and then you can watch over the course of a day this water rise and lower, and the land behind it rise and lower and get completely covered by the water, and then come back. And so that's kind of the what we're talking about. So there's tons of other footage you should be checking out on YouTube if you are into this line of research. I recommend all the stuff on the IR footage being shot. Unbelievable stuff by JT Tolan Media. God, I'm probably so wrong on that too. Give me a second on that. Let me find out what it is, because I want to say it's JT Nolan, and I could be wrong. So I just don't want to give you the incorrect information. What else? So I just wanted to mention while I'm looking that up. It doesn't look like it's JT Nolan. Let me see here. If somebody's telling me in the chat, I can't be two places at once, or I would look. No, I don't see it. No. Where is it? We just had him on our show the other day. You think I'd figure this out? Let me get you the exact channel name by going to Globebusters. And by the way, our strike has been lifted on Globebusters, so make sure you're subscribed to Globebusters. That is at youtube.com/Globebusters and the number 1. And his name is Seeing in Infrared on the Flat Earth. That's the name of the video. He joined us. And it is JT Tolan Media 1. That's why I was way off. So again, the name of the channel is J Tolan. See, I'm way off. The letter J, then Tolan. J Tolan space Media 1, the number 1. J Tolan Media 1. He looks like he's got 5 or 6 videos. The most recent one is a 500-mile visibility in infrared from 31,000 feet. He's also got a few other plane ones that are awesome, and one where he's showing some areas down in LA. But those are awesome videos that you should look into. Also, if you haven't noticed, the PhD. Now, I got a bunch of I guess I can say shit. I got a bunch of shit on Twitter about posting about this guy because they said, look at this guy. He believes that this YouTube guy is a PhD. Hey, I don't know if he's a PhD. Could it be a lie? Sure. Maybe somebody made a channel and said, hey, I'm a PhD scientist and these are my observations, and they're lying. But I don't think that that's the case. I don't think anybody is lying to show flat Earth. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. Okay? It would be found out. You're not going to become rich and famous because you showed people that the Earth is flat when they would just go out and redo the experiments and it wouldn't be shown that. So what the hell are you talking about? It's just not what anybody's doing. But let me find this particular video for you and have you check out his channel as well. Again, he could be some kid in his basement. I wouldn't know that. I just wouldn't know. So let's see here where exactly that video is, just so I can send you to the right direction. And trying to find it here. Let's see if we can find it. All right, so this particular channel is named it's Dr. John D. I'm not sure if that's a channel name. We're going to go look at it and see. The channel name is Dr. Dr. space John space D, period. Dr. John D. He's only got 290 subscribers, so needs a few more people to watch some of these videos. He claims to be a PhD scientist who has a degree in spectrophotometry. Again, could he be some chubby kid eating Cheetos at his grandmother's basement? Absolutely. He absolutely could. Says his qualifications are a BSc in BSc HONS. I don't know if that's honors. MSc, a DIC, Diploma of Imperial College London, and a PhD in spectrophotometry. He has been out doing observations because he said he saw. I'll kind of read this a little bit just so you can check out his channel. Again, he only has a few subscribers. Dr. John D. Says, am I qualified in the sense that I have a scientific qualification? Yes. Do qualifications make me intelligent? Well, the picture to the right shows my pinched, bleeding skin because of my inability to close my camera tripod safely. Intelligence is such a subjective term. Why would I class myself as a scientist? Well, I view myself as a critical thinker that applies scientific principles, the scientific method to attempt to answer questions. Scientific method is just one of the many tools we have. But he goes on basically saying that people should redo his tests and do it over and over again every chance they get. And then he lays out his distances and what he's observing, and he observes exactly what we've been trying to tell people for going on 4 years now, which is we can see too far. Period. We see too far. Throw everything else aside, we see too far. We see the mountain peaks of Canigou when we shouldn't. We see further distances than the ball Earth allows. Why is this? Well, you can believe in floating magical mountains that conform perfectly right up at the horizon line, and buildings that do the same. You can believe all that. Or you can believe we see it because it's there. It's just there. It's right there. So I don't need an explanation. I don't need a scientific hypothesis of why I see what I see. I see it. It's there. If you have a scientific hypothesis about why I see something that's not there, then please bring me some evidence or some examples other than, well, the Earth's a ball and we see that and it's on the other side of the ball, therefore you see it, but you don't really see it. It's kind of, you kind of see it. It's when the sun, even though it's at nighttime that we see, and the buildings have lights, and it's, even though we're trying to say that it's because of light refraction in the sun, and it's all light always conforms to the ball shape. Everything you ever see, ever did, ever do, it can only be on a ball. No presupposition needed. Exactly. Yep, none whatsoever. Just, it has to be because it's a ball. That's what we get. And I don't believe it. So, yeah, check out Dr. John D. and his videos. He's basically now a PhD scientist that's coming out saying, we see too far. We see too far. We do not see what the ball Earth calls for. Problem, we need people to start looking into it. We've been saying it for 4 years. Hey, I don't care if I have to say it for 25 years. If the truth is being hidden from humanity, it needs to be outed. Speaking of that, during the break, I was thinking to myself, well, what are the answers people are going to have for the idea of the moving atmosphere with the Earth? And of course, everyone's go-to explanation for when somebody says we don't know that the Earth's spinning, they say, have you ever seen a Foucault's pendulum? And again, people need to think. If the Foucault's pendulum works, then the Earth moves underneath the atmosphere. Meaning, if you're in a helicopter, you can take off from New York and hover there while New York goes away from you, and here comes the mid-United States, and here comes the West Coast, and then you can land. Now, we all know that's not the case. You cannot do that. If you hover in a helicopter, you will hover there. You will be in the same location. You can wait 20 days and you will land in the same location. Therefore, to believe in the globe Earth, you have to believe that everything in that column is moving with the Earth, which means that if a rotating pendulum was swinging back and forth, the rotation of the Earth and the air with it would render the pendulum useless at proving that the Earth moves. So people cannot even fight through the massive amount of BS, nonsense, indoctrination crap that has been put in our face for a reason. Okay? It's not by chance that every time somebody says the Earth is a sphere that they started with, well, of course we've always known that the Earth is a sphere. That is clear social manipulation put there on purpose. You know, the video that David Weiss put out recently, the Sesame Street video, hugely important to look at. We've got Sesame Street, which every child in this country, at least the United States, is, you know, sat in front of, and this is where they get their education. And you've got those little, you know, meat, but instead they're saying Earth, 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 and here comes this globe Earth, and the child is rewarded when they say, oh, that's Earth, Earth, I get it, Earth, 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 Earth. Yeah, that, or it's indoctrination, or it's heavy indoctrination. Again, why was there no tests done in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade to show you which is true, to show you where you live? Something I want you to deeply think about. So what I knew would happen, or what I hoped would happen, is if the observations I was making were correct, and these things that we were finding in the research were correct, that by getting this information out there, by speaking out about it when nobody else could, that people like Dr. John D., again, could be a Cheeto-eating person in his basement. I don't know. If he is, what a waste of time to lie about the shape of the Earth, even though people are going to go try and redo what you're doing. Now, the only difference is this is a PhD, which is going to get more eyes than a Jeranism video. Believe me, that's the way the world works. Okay? So my videos are just a hope to capture people for a split second, like this guy. And he starts out his video. It's not audio. There's no audio. It's just type on the screen. But one of the things he says is, at the beginning, it says, what is my motivation for carrying out this research? He says, after watching a number of YouTube videos of people using laser devices to determine the extent of curvature or the lack of it across water and ice, I could not discount the research just by watching the videos. So I set out to determine whether there was any truth in any of the claims by repeating similar experiments using the scientific method. Having a PhD in spectrophotometry, this piqued my interest. So now you've got a PhD who everybody out there who just probably thinks Jeran's crazy. The flat earthers are out of their mind. My meatballer caller who calls constantly. Now here, understand that it's not just crazy Jeran on the radio. It's a PhD scientist with a PhD in spectrophotometry. Again, could he be lying? He could be. I'm just saying you should kind of check yourself and say, okay, would it be a big deal to me one way or the other? I would hope you would say that if you found out this guy was lying, that it would be like, oh, I figured this guy's just a liar. I would hope that's the case. But my hope for you on the other side of that end would be, if it's not, don't you think we're starting to see an issue? That PhD scientists are saying, hey, here's these guys talking crazy on YouTube. That's how it starts, right? Well, but we know that we don't have the resources or the know-how or the techniques or the location availability, so many things that real scientists have, but they've never gone to that place of asking that question. That's what we hope. That's what I hope to spark, is to get some of these people to start looking into it, and they're going to show it one way or the other, right? And what's better than people knowing the truth? You know, and for all those out there, and I know there's a lot that are backing this radio station. Excuse me, I'm going to have something to drink. Let me give you a topic to talk about amongst yourselves. Chris Geo, should we eliminate him as the head of True Frequency Radio or not? Discuss. Okay, I'm back. Hopefully you came to the conclusion that we should keep him because we don't have a choice. So just making sure that you understand that. It was a good topic, but just one we don't really have any say-so in. So coming back, my hope would be, I kind of lost where I was going. Oh, yeah, so this guy, Dr. John D., could he be lying? Sure, but it's certainly interesting if he's not. Next line he says is, why is it important to me as a human desire to need and understand through objective measurement my environment? Do I believe in a God or some form of supreme creator? His answer, no. Am I concerned that religious groups or non-religious groups will use this research to promote their own agenda? He answers honestly, yes. And then it talks about, did he gain financially? And by the way, that's a funny thing, just a quick off note. People will say when I put this on YouTube or whatever I do with this video, that me earlier talking about how much money I made and how you could sign up for, it was an attempt for me to make more money. Just, you know, that's how lost people are. So yes, this entire show is an attempt to take my $65 a month to like $90. And then I'll be making, it'll be about $3-4 an hour. So you think your life is going well? Let me tell you about mine. Let's get on to the main part of the show, which was leading up to when we take calls, which will be the final half hour. I don't know if anybody's actually waiting. If they are, it's probably not the smartest thing. Good, they're not. You can call 213-233-3998. Again, that's 213-233-3998. You can call that number starting at 7:30 for those of us on the right coast, and that would be 10:30 for those of you on the wrong coast. Oh, and right when I said that, we have somebody calling in. Let me just take the call real quick, see what they want. Calling at the wrong time, getting rewarded for it. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from? And not coming to the call. Are you there?
Hello.
Hello. You're on the air, and only for about 3 more seconds. And that'll be the end of it.
Hey.
That was, if I think I heard you at the end, we'll go to one other caller. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from? Wow, we're doing really well tonight. Really, really well. All right, we're going to hold off on that one, and didn't hear anybody. So anyway, we are going to go till 7:30, then we'll take calls. Until then, I did want to listen in because I found it interesting, important, revealing a little, if you will. First of all, I think people understand my hatred for Jimmy Kimmel. If you don't, let me make it clear. I dislike Jimmy Kimmel. I dislike him very much so. I think he's a sellout and a piece of garbage. Now, let's move on from there. And recently he did an interview with Kanye West, who I also, could leave or take. never really interested me one way or the other. But I thought this interview was quite interesting because if you watch Jimmy Kimmel's show or you have begun to see what kind of a person he is absolutely given his speaking monologue from above. Everything that he says is, pushes the leftist agenda. It's just ridiculous, like beyond. Now, a few times when, we had, the basketball player Kyrie Irving on the show or Shaq, he always kind of pulled out the mainstream need at that time, whether it was telling Shaq to retract on his flat earth statement or trying to get Kyrie to look crazy. Whatever the goal was, he's tried to get that done. When there's a school shooting, he immediately comes out and says how horrendous it is and how all the parents are crying. And, yeah, we feel for you, Jimmy. And then he says that anybody saying anything other than the true story about those events is a horrific person who has lost their mind, blah, 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 blah. When people can just not think for themselves, what if it was fake? What if those events were being put on by the government? That's why it should be allowed to be said. What if? But no, these guys want to shut it down. You're not allowed to. You cannot think. What if? Anyway, this is an interview with Kanye West where I think some things were said that, he's certainly allowed to go a little further than I would have thought he would have. So let's listen to a little bit.
Designer and shoe salesman. His new album is called Yay. Please welcome Kanye West.
Now, I'm just going to check in the chat and make sure everybody can hear me okay with that sound, and then we'll get back to it. But just let me know in the chat if somebody could that you can hear it. Everything's fantastic and glorious. Let's continue on.
Thanks for being here, and thank you for the shoes. Nobody ever brings me shoes. You brought me shoes. That's very nice of you, very kind. And I'll tell you a story, and this is honestly true. The last time, a few years ago, you sent me a pair of Yeezys. I have never in my life had more people come up and talk to me than when I was walking around in them, to the point where I was like, this is crazy. I got to get these off. People are chasing me. I'm worried people are going to beat me up and take these. Usually people wait they see them sleeping on the street waiting for these shoes. Is that for you more rewarding than hearing people say they like your music?
Both.
It's both are, yeah. Sometimes it's like the thing you are accustomed to hearing and you start hearing something else and it's more exciting to hear something else, but not for you.
Yeah, when you go on new creative journeys, it is exciting for people to appreciate that. Yeah. Especially if people, didn't think that it was possible. Like when I started off in Chicago as an artist, I'm a visual artist. Like I went to art school. Right. And I decided to start doing music and people said it wouldn't work out. And then I started producing and selling beats and I started selling beats to Jay-Z, Rockefeller. And that started going well. And I said I wanted to rap and people said that wasn't gonna work. They had this term, producer rapper. It basically meant you wouldn't rap as good as the real rappers. And, that started working out. Then I said I wanted to design clothes. And then that started working out.
What's the next? What is next for you? Space Force?
So just a quick example of exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to spitting the company line. To bring up Space Force, this nonsense idea that we need a space force to protect the Earth from the aliens or whatever. Just nonsense, but let's continue.
I would totally be involved. You should design the uniforms for the Space Force. Is that something that you would do if President Trump asked you to do that?
I'm into designing.
Yeah. Why not? Your wife was here last week. Somebody put a leash on him, will you? Your wife was here last week, and she's very nice, and she did something that I would imagine you're very proud of. She went to Washington, she spoke to the president, and she actually convinced him to grant clemency to a woman who got life in prison, like real life in prison, for a first-time drug offense. Was that something that you discussed with her before she did it?
Well, she's super passionate about it, and it was amazing for her to see that dream come true.
Were you ever concerned about her being alone in the Oval Office with President Trump?
Well, he is a player.
People got really mad when you were, well, some people were very happy when you said you like President Trump. Do you think he is a good president?
You're going to ask me, can I answer the first question you're going to ask?
Answer whatever you want.
So I think it's important here to let's hear Kanye West out, hear what he's talking about, and see if we can understand where he's coming from.
Well, it's funny, in this world that we live in, there's two main motivating forces, and I tweet about it all the time. It's love or fear. And you can't explain love. My cousin is locked up for murder, and I love him. And so he did a bad thing, but I still love him. And just as a musician, African-American, guy out in Hollywood, all these different things, everyone around me tried to pick my candidate for me. Mm-hmm. And then told me every time I said I like Trump that I couldn't say it out loud or my career would be over. I get kicked out the Black community because Blacks we're supposed to have a monolithic thought. We can only be Democrats and all. So even when I said it right before I went to the hospital and I expressed myself, and when I came out, I had lost my confidence. So I didn't have the confidence to take on the world and the possible backlash. And it took me a year and a half to have the confidence to stand up and put on the hat, no matter what the consequences were. And what it represented to me is not about policies, and because I'm not a politician like that, but it represented overcoming fear and doing what you felt, no matter what anyone said, and saying, you can't bully me. Liberals can't bully me, news can't bully me, the hip hop community, they can't bully me. Because at that point, if I'm afraid to be me, I'm no longer Ye. That's what makes Ye. And I quite enjoy when people actually are mad at me about certain things.
You must enjoy it.
Yeah. I actually quite enjoy it.
Because your wife was mad at you, right? I mean, according to your song, your wife was upset about that.
Right or wrong, or even if I changed my mind about it or thought about it more, which I'm not saying I did, just place a thought out there that everyone's not thinking sometimes. Galileo, they want to chop his head off for saying that the earth, what do you say, the sun revolved around the earth, or
right,
vice versa. So when you have modern,
but the sun,
futuristic, I'm not concerned about the specifics, sir.
Right.
That's just a very funny part. I'll put it on hold here until we get back from the break, and then we've got another half hour of kind of picking this apart a little bit. And if you've heard it before, I apologize, but I do think there's some important points in it, and I want those to be heard, mostly, obviously, from Kanye West, but I want to show you a classic example of Kimmel being Kimmel that comes up here shortly after the break. We will explore that. Then we'll take calls at 7:30 Pacific time, 10:30 Eastern time. So we will take calls. You can dial in if you want to get ready for that in 1/2 hour. And until then, we'll just keep discussing this. But if you heard him there, he was talking about, Galileo, and then Jimmy has to step in to say, well, the sun, we do go around the sun, and it's just funny to hear Kanye stop him and say, I'm not really interested in the specifics here. I just thought that was rather funny. But some of the important stuff comes up here shortly. And I want you to get an idea of exactly what Kanye is talking about, because Kanye is actually trying to speak the truth, at least the truth to him. I'm not saying that the truth to him is the truth to all of us. I do believe he's trying to speak the truth here. Kimmel is trying to sidetrack it, move it in the direction that he wants completely, and does a good job of showing exactly what Kanye kind of maps out is for the problem with the world, which I agree with. He kind of shows that problem clearly. And then Kimmel steps right to the plate, knock it out of the park, showing you an example. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Be right back. Actually, go to the restroom. I'll hurry back.
is Ella, and I'm 10 years old. I'm one of the millions of children born to parents suffering from the sheeple virus. Symptoms include the inability to think for oneself, the attention span of a goldfish, and a strong belief in government and the mainstream media. It is estimated that 1 out of every 2 children are being raised by parents infected with the sheeple virus. But there is a cure. For as little as 19 cents per day, you can become a TFR supporter and help children like me get their daily dose of truth. Together, we will make sure every child has protection from deception.
Hurricane Florence, new poll. I'm Ann Cates. The East Coast from the Carolinas to the Mid-Atlantic are braced for Hurricane Florence, now a powerful Category 4 storm. Maryland Governor Larry Hogan.
Particularly of concern are coastal and low-lying areas of the state and areas which have already received substantial rainfall over the last days. But while we're hoping for the best, we are preparing for the worst.
Florence is packing 140-mile-an-hour winds and is expected to get stronger as she makes landfall, possibly in the Carolinas. Coastal areas are under mandatory evacuation orders, and states of emergency have been declared in North and South Carolina, plus Virginia and Maryland. A new CNN poll finds nearly 6 in 10 Americans disapprove of President Trump. Correspondent Caitlin Collins reports White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders and others in the West Wing are focused on a whodunit.
As Trump continues to fume over the publication of an anonymous op-ed claiming there's a resistance inside his administration, the search for the author continues. Though Sanders said today lie detector tests aren't on the table, sources say Trump hasn't ruled them out, and his own vice president volunteered to take one.
More charges may be filed against the white Dallas police officer who shot a black man in his apartment after mistaking his residence for hers. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports Officer Amber Geiger is now charged with manslaughter.
The Dallas County District Attorney says questions have yet to be answered in the shooting death of 26-year-old Botham Jean, a native of St. Lucia. She says the case will be presented to a grand jury after her office fully investigates the shooting, and all options will be on the table for indictments, including murder. Meanwhile, Jean's family mourns his death. The Prime Minister of St. Lucia in Dallas today greeting family members and meeting with city leaders about the tragic shooting.
On Wall Street, the Dow fell 59 points, the Nasdaq up 22. I'm Ann Cates.
You must unite what has been set asunder.
We are TFR, Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Thank you for joining me. I do appreciate it. And let's continue on with the interview.
Right.
I'll take that back a little bit for you.
Modern,
but the sun,
futurist Earth, and about it or thought about it more, which I'm not saying I did. Just place a thought out there that everyone's not thinking sometimes. Galileo, they want to chop his head off for saying that the Earth, what do you say, the sun revolved around the Earth,
right?
Vice versa. You know, so when you have modern, futuristic, I'm not concerned about the specifics, sir.
Right. Do you ever regret anything you say, or is it just like you just look at it like, hey, I put it out there, it's out there, there's no point in regretting it?
I think people focus too much on the past and focus too much on regret. Even like when you deal with schools, like you take like the slave idea. My point is, I've heard of history class. I've never heard of a class that breaks down how you balance a checkbook or how you control your finances, which my father never taught me that. And I've never heard of a future class. So they keep us so focused on history that we start to believe that it actually repeats itself. And we become overly traditional, and we can't advance as a race of beings. We get too caught up in the past and what everyone's saying and what everyone's tweeting. And sometimes you just have to be fearless enough to break the simulation. And what I mean...
Well said. Really, really well said. And we'll continue on. But how about Kanye West, Speaking from the unknown. Speaking from beyond, perhaps. Call me interested. Let's continue on.
I mean simulation. This is what I mean by the simulation. Sorry, I know you guys wanted to clap, but everything I'm going to say is going to be amazing. Here's the idea why you're in a simulation. Let's start with acting, first of all. And a 2-year-old screams at a restaurant, the entire restaurant screams, teach that kid how to act. We're all unpaid actors in some giant script that we didn't write. Simulation, a 2-year-old jumps on a coffee table and someone says, that's a coffee table, don't jump on that. So it went from being something that makes him feel like Superman, he's got his cape on, to something where he has to think about this person's like a family member he doesn't like anyway. He's 2 years old, he doesn't give a about a coffee or a table. And he's starting to like calculate all these things. And by the time you're 40 years old, you've got a wall full of coffee tables calculating you into traffic, calculating you into your career choice, calculating you into
the spherical Earth, calculating you into your spinning in outer space, calculating you are 45 million miles away from Mars, calculating you are 3 billion miles from Saturn. Sorry, go on.
To this townhouse that's not quite as big as the townhouse next, and it just never works. You know, that's the simulation that I'm talking. That's what I mean when I say simulation.
I think I understand what you're saying, but I might not. But also, you know, maybe people don't want the kid to get hurt jumping on the coffee table, you know, and
we are too protective. We always don't want someone to get hurt. Can you imagine me talking to my publicist before I said I'm going on TV again? Like, I'm going on.
You should be wearing a helmet.
I'm going on TV because it's awesome. Like, I love Jimmy. We can have a dialogue about the president and not a diatribe. You know, it's like I got that from Sarah Jessica Parker. I was talking.
Is that right?
Yeah. Shout out. Shout out to that bar. But you know, it's one of the things I think it got missed on TMZ is the main thing that I was stressing is the idea of trying love. You know, we're always, you know, pushing out so much hate.
Okay, so let's listen to what he's going to say here. This is kind of the part that I found important. Let's listen if we agree with what he says here.
Missed on TMZ is the main thing that I was stressing is the idea of trying love. You know, we're always, you know, pushing out so much hate, and love can cure so much. Just to think, am I moving in love? Is this out of love, not out of pride? Pride is a word that people often say in a positive connotation, but it's actually one of the 7 deadly sins. And it takes too much ownership, but you can replace pride with love. And when I see people just even like go at the president, it's like, why not try love? For one person to stand up against all odds and just hug somebody the way that Alice Johnson hugged her family when she got out of jail. That one by one, we can defuse this nuclear bomb of hate that we're in as a society.
Totally agree. One by one, in our interactions, in our conversations, in our radio shows, in our everyday happenstance, conversations with people at work, with family, we can diffuse this bomb of hate, right? Let's continue.
By thinking of everyone as our family, and how would we treat our kids, how would we treat our
I think that's a beautiful thought, but just in
now here comes Jimmy.
Literal terms, there are families being torn apart at the border of this country. There are literally families being torn apart as a result of what this president is doing. And I think that, we cannot forget that, whether we like his personality or not, his actions are really what matter. I mean, you so famously and so powerfully said George Bush doesn't care about black people. It makes me wonder what makes you think that Donald Trump does, or any people at all. Why don't we take a break? We'll come back. And Kanye.
Now, if you haven't seen the interview, Kanye sits there kind of arms crossed, eyes up in the sky, thinking to himself. Now, what I assume he's thinking doesn't necessarily mean it's true. But to me, I'd be saying, thank you, Jimmy Kimmel, for providing the evidence of exactly what I just said. Thank you for being the person to step up and put hate before love, to bring this back to a racial situation. Now it's, well, you said that George Bush was, terrible for everybody. Now, what about Trump makes him good? Okay. What did you not just understand about what he said? Which was, why not try love? Why not try connecting? Why not try togetherness? And then Jimmy, just like he's a little puppet, immediately does exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite in his face. Oh, really? Is that what you think? Well, I think I'm going to bring up some more hate. And I'm going to bring up some more just absolute disgust and just really push people into a position where they're pissed off and upset and angry. And now it's racial. And what is he doing for this black community? What do you care more than Kanye West, Jimmy? What, I mean, do you really expect people to believe that? You don't think that Kanye West thinks about that? It just is infuriating. Let's continue.
Kanye West, his album's called Real.
So they go to a break and they're back here.
On the cover, we just got this magazine, Bizarre Magazine. There you are with the kids. So they're a very, very...
I'm going to fast forward through a little bit of this. He talks about his kids and getting them, dressed up and putting on outfits that he makes. It makes it sound surprising, too. He says at one point, let me see if I happen to be where that is.
Lifetimes and lifetimes ahead.
And you actually are imagining, like, guys, the objectify.
Oh, sorry.
Point of being Kanye West, if you can't, let's break down the porn categories. A lot of black on white, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, the conversation has gotten a little south here, but let me get ahead. Again, this is easy to find. It's Jimmy Kimmel's full interview with Kanye West.
Murder. So I was inspired after seeing this Alexander McQueen film. Because...
All right, let's take a break and we'll come back.
All right, here's the end.
A month-long period.
Here we go.
That's a ton of work. Are you a workaholic? Are you always working?
No, I actually slept a lot during the project.
While they were recording?
Yeah. Stay in a calm state, because by the time I got to TMZ, I would that just shoot out, like almost like Tourette's.
Because you have highs and lows. And when you have a high, you're on a roll. And when you have a low, you're not.
Well, there's some case.
Well, have you watched the rest? I didn't have the rest queued up enough to get to the important parts, and it is a 21-minute total interview. But he says a lot of important things there that I think Jimmy Kimmel was kind of rare for letting continue. I've seen people try and take conversations. I don't know if you've ever seen the Bill Burr, but there's a lot of interviews where he will try and kind of stop people from going in a certain direction. And I thought Kanye got out a lot of what he wanted to say, and then Jimmy kind of showed proof positive of exactly those things by going and turning the conversation into one about hate. And for me, and it could just be me, maybe others, I don't know. I saw a truthfulness in Kanye West there. I saw a true belief inside of him that the world can be changed by putting love first, by putting everyone that you talk to, everyone you interact to or with, putting them as the most important thing that you deal with. And I think that if we did that and we treated each other with that kind of respect, that it could change the world. Now, again, it's not going to change tomorrow or the day after. It would take an effort from everybody. But when you've got people with major followings like Jimmy Kimmel, who are instructed, in my opinion, you can have yours, but I think that he's instructed to kind of play that narrative. It's the narrative that the media has played for 50 some odd years or more, where you need immediately 50% of the population hating the other 50%. What's better than that? Because if you're a leader, you need people to think that they need leadership. They need a government. They need to be organized. And so they have this government, and in order for that government to stay in positions of power, they need you thinking that you need them. What better way than immediately turn 50% of the world against, or 50% of the country against the other 50%? You're red, you're blue, you're a donkey, you're an elephant. And you have these people go up against each other, and they each get a candidate at every, and it's just all, you know the story about that. So I think that really it does start with not having these kind of people like Jimmy Kimmel repeating this kind of information and having people just follow along. That's something that humanity has done for I don't know how long, I guess since the beginning, which is we follow along. We follow too much. We don't lead. And that is a major issue in my mind. So I am making sure that the phone lines are ready. If they are, we can take calls earlier. And again, I see that they're not. Okay, 1 second. Let me try and clean up this connection since it says I don't have one. And why not? Not sure. Can't say. Let's see. Okay, I think we are fine. Let's go to the phones. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from? Caller. No, don't. Anybody hear me? I don't know what's going on here. This thing is not. How long have I not been on for? That's not good. All right. Well, I'm going to pretend that I'm on. The phone lines are open, I believe. 213-233-3998. I don't see anybody really in the chat that's talking about what I'm talking about. And I picked up a call and did not hear anything. So we are not going in the right direction. Let's see here if we need to fix anything. Not that I know of. All right. Give me 1 second. And we'll do this, and we'll do that, and we'll do this, and we'll do that. Okay. Is that any better? Let me go to calls now and see if... Oh, now there's no caller. All right, let's get on the Sugar Bushwhackers, I hope. You on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw? Who's this right from?
Well, you know, if the phone lines are acting funky, I'm going to call you, Jeran.
And I wanted to make sure of that, so thank you very much for doing that. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Yeah, everything's working fantastic.
Beautiful.
So,
good to know. Glad to know.
There's no reason... Yeah, no reason you shouldn't have calls.
All right. Are you...
unless...
Well, besides, I did say to wait till 7:30, so people probably set their alarm.
Yeah, and I was waiting, too, because...
All right. Well, thank you for waiting.
I wanted to...
We are opening it up now. I see somebody in the chat say Kimmel is a handler. Is he not? Absolutely. Yeah, he is a... for sure, he is... man, he has sold out if there ever was someone.
His studio is in a Masonic lodge.
Correct. Yep. And on top of that, I mean, I saw some stuff that he was saying about how we need to get rid of guns, and guns are what kill people, and we need, you need to stop the public from having guns. Yet he is escorted into his building every single day by armed security guards. It's like dude, what are you talking about? Like, you don't get it. But of course, anybody in that kind of position, when you've been propelled to wherever you're propelled, well, of course, you want to be in charge of who has guns. That makes it a lot safer for you.
Oh, yeah. And I was talking to people, and I didn't quite get to it, but I wanted to tell them that when shit hits the fan, don't go to Walmart. Just don't go to Walmart. Because that's where all the provisions are going to be provided. But
yeah, I've seen those videos. I've seen pretty freaky stuff.
It's a prison waiting to happen. That's all they are.
Yeah, I don't know. And maybe I'll do on a show on it coming up recently, but I've been looking into that a lot, this idea of, I don't know if you've heard people looking into like the mud floods and a possible catastrophe circa 1600 in that area, almost like a reset, almost like something happened that completely redid everything. And then, that most of the people here today are from the small group that would have been left. It's crazy to think about, but again, I've done the numbers, as people have seen on some of my videos, about how fast population grows. And that's why still hard for me to believe the people, and I know I was one of them too, when I heard how many people were in the world. I said, there's not that many people. Come on. But if you really start to look into it and you play with population calculators, you will be amazed at what the population is and could become. And I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that it means we're overpopulated. That is certainly not true. I mean, there's so much land. All the people could fit in like a state in the United States easily, with enough land to live in a house and everything. But I'm talking about as far as when you're looking at how long people have been here. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about, where if you figure out what the true growth rate percentage is, we don't have to be here very long at all.
But yeah, but what about the dinosaurs, Jeran? The dinosaurs lived 20 billion, Brazilian. That was it. Bazillion or Brazilian miles.
No, they were hit by an asteroid 67 million years ago, which wiped them out. And then all mammals really died as well. And then some rather shrewd-like ones, they were like badger size, and they went foresting, and over 67 million years became us. Voice box and all.
Oh, yeah, because some pretty sweet tails.
Yeah, we have a tailbone. We have a tailbone, and so by default, you had to have had a tail. Now, you'd think that there would be a human discovered with this tail, but they're still looking for that one. Might take a little while.
That was Baby Goku.
Baby Goku?
Baby Goku.
Oh, is that like Baby Yoshi?
I know, from Dragon Ball.
Oh, see, I'm not a Dragon Ball guy. My Nerdville pretty much ends at WWE wrestling.
And believe me, I'm right there with you. But
pretty big video gamer back in the day, but not very specific games. And I think you're probably talking about the card game, which is even further south from me.
Well, no, just the anime that was on TV.
Yeah, I can't say I've ever seen an episode.
Well,
I couldn't even name the Pokemons, the Pikachu and Pokemon and Dime a Dozen. I think are the three that I know.
Well, yeah, that conversation could go on for hours, but I'll spare the listeners. And your phones are working, so anybody out there?
No.
Call on in.
Yeah, so far it's
the numbers are out there.
Maybe it only allows one person on the phone at a time. Let's pretend that's the truth. So we'll hang up with Brian, and you can call in 213-233-3998. You are telecasting or simulcasting?
Oh yes.
Hello.
Yeah, simulcasting and the 800 on my screen.
Sorry.
Yeah, the Bushwhackers. Gotta love them.
Yes.
Love the Bushwhackers.
I wish I could lick all your foreheads. People don't know what that means. They do some history checking. So what do you think? I just got to ask you one more thing while nobody else is calling in. Are you a fan of the David Weiss interviews with Jericho?
I only heard the first one, and that was awful. Well, it was great, but at the same time, the first minute and a half, David said, the Flat Earth Society. Yeah, nobody's affiliated with them. And in the last 30 seconds before David could reply, Jericho friggin' said, and check out the Flat Earth Society. And it was so annoying because he blatantly said it within the first few minutes after his long intro to talk to David. But as soon as David said it, he was like, no, it's not the Flat Earth Society. And then in the last 30 seconds, it was the repeat. And I know I just repeated myself, but
it was pretty funny, though.
By repeating it. Oh.
And, he does a recent one with Russian Vids is on with him. And they talk about some of the crazy beliefs that people hold, where basically the government is a satanic group in some way or another, and they talk about that. I'm just impressed that somebody like Jericho, that has a pretty popular podcast, even brings it up. That impresses me. In fact, they even tell Jericho about the whole. I don't know about your opinion of it, but the whole Twin Towers against the mega powers. And the Twin Towers were brought down, and so they even bring that up. They talk about McMahon, with the WWE logo being the two W's, which quickly turned to one side, make it the 33. It's just, I just like hearing them talk wrestling and flat Earth, mixing two things that I think are at least important to me. Not that wrestling's important anymore; it's a big part of my past, but it's still interesting to hear. And when they played the part of Vince McMahon, have you heard the clip of McMahon when he's talking about what will happen if his son wins the match, and he talks about the Earth will spin round on its axis? Have you heard that one?
Yeah, I know that one for sure.
So
people I just think slip of tongue.
Yeah, well, I don't even think it was, but I think that.
You think that was intentional?
Oh yeah. Oh, I do. Yeah, you don't think so?
And it's okay. And nobody's thinking about it except for us.
Let's listen to it real quick. Let's listen to it.
Well, imagine this. Imagine me standing in the middle of this ring. It's the night after WrestleMania, and I'm introducing my son, Shane McMahon. Now, why would I be doing that? The only reason I would be doing that is because hell would have frozen over at WrestleMania. The seas would have parted, the earth would have spun on its axis, and there would have been a miracle at WrestleMania. Shane McMahon would have defeated The Undertaker.
I think it's classy. And the earth would have spun on its axis. After describing things that are crazy and could never happen, that hell would freeze over, that the seas would part, and that the earth would spin on its axis. I thought it was great.
And I'm remembering the look on his face now that I've been hearing it again. Just the kind of glance around the arena. Okay, nobody bought it or nobody's catched.
I thought it was good. Yeah, I just I've always thought the guy he's just too over the top, and it would just make sense to me if wrestling the whole time was right there. And they talked about the NWO, and they've always been at the forefront of anything kind of going on. So to hear Jericho sit and talk with these guys about Flat Earth and then bring up ways that the WWE could be involved, and for some reason it seems like these wrestling, I don't know if you've heard all the interviews, but it actually kind of pisses me off in a personal way that I'm such a wrestling fan, and Dave Weiss never got me on a goddamn podcast with one of these wrestling guys. I'm like, dude, and I had to give him all the material for the Jericho stuff. He's like, dude, I don't know who this guy Jericho is. I'm like, oh, make sure you say Flat Earth is Jericho, and make sure, I'm giving him all these one-liners, and then he uses them all on the show, and then the next show invites Russian Vids instead of me. So way to go, jerk dirt. Sorry. Anyway, we're going to a break. And a good hello to all those sugar bushwhackers. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. We got phone calls coming up.
This is a Elizabeth McCabe, aka Lucky One of Truth Frequency News. I wanted to tell you all about Extendivite from HeartDrop.com. Y'all know I check everything before I air it. When I heard about Extendivite on TFR, I went to HeartDrop.com and started my research. It's got cayenne. That's good for blood and circulation. It stimulates the blood flow. It's got garlic, which fights bacteria like antibiotics, and it lowers the cholesterol and blood pressure. It also has milk thistle, which is the best detox for liver. I couldn't wait to try it out, and I'm glad I did 4 months ago. And here's the obvious results. My hands and feet don't get cold anymore. The varicose veins have faded too. My wrists don't hurt after typing all day. Now I tell you all this because it's true and I want you to really live life. Try Extendivite. Go to heartdrop.com and order it.
Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid. Call now. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death. This is Uncle Walt from the Ironworks. Josh, Corey, and I have chosen to look at life with no fear. No fear of the unknown. No fear of questions about the supposedly well-known. No fear of ridicule for thinking outside the familiar fool's lines. No fear of the boot on the neck of those refusing the party line. No fear of taking on those so convinced of their beliefs they would sooner drink the Kool-Aid than believe they've been fools made. In this world filled with me too, cattle think, can truth's protective layers be peeled back to show the tender, juicy pink? Are we all just grist for the mill? Souls sold against our will, or is that just how it feels? When you're filled to the rim with trivialities so fear-filled and grim, break clear of the fear right here, Tuesdays and Fridays at 2 a.m. on TFR. Josh and I and you will hammer out the impurities of technology-driven groupthink, fold in a dash of logic, and quench it all with a bit of absurdity. The Ironworks. Break clear of the fear.
Real people, real radio. Wherever you are, make it TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining me. It is Jeranism Monday Night Raw. I am taking phone calls. The phone lines are open. 213-233-3998. Again, that's 213-233-3998 for whatever it is that you may want to talk about. Sorry we did not have a Globebusters show yesterday. Bob said he had some sort of server farm, which that's obviously not my line of business because I just picture a bunch of servers in a fence eating out of a trough, and I'm pretty sure that's not what that is. No, I'm pretty sure Bob sets up server farms. Yeah, is that what they're called? I guess I don't know. He sets up server farms, and it is a lot of work. And sometimes Sundays is the only day that he can find the time to do that. So he did that, and we decided not to have a show. I spent the day at Yosemite Lake, which is a short drive from my house, and it's a short lake, a mile across. But just walking around out there, taking some pictures, enjoying the sun. So we did not have a show yesterday. We will be back next week. So don't miss it. If you do, then you can just watch it after. So there's really no real reason not to miss it other than it's live, which, it's crazy things can happen. You never know what'll happen when it's live. Let's go to the first caller in line. You're on with Jeranism RAW. Who's this? Where are you from?
Is that me?
It's you.
Wow, I can't believe I'm talking to you. I've watched a lot of your videos.
Hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
I've actually called into 2 radio shows in the past. Once was Rush Limbaugh back when Robert C. Byrd was still alive. I made my comment, and I was pleased that he agreed with me. The other one was with Dave Ramsey on his radio show. I made my comment. He agreed with me so much he sent me a copy of his book autographed for free.
Wow.
It's nice if you agreed with me too on something. So I guess we'll see how that plays out.
Let's see how it goes.
I will talk until you have another caller. I'm a talker, so I'm new to this, relatively new to this. I started with this when I noticed that the former president made comments about Flat Earth Society, and I know several of his speeches watching the news, he kept making reference to that. I saw John Kerry do it. I saw several high-level government, I don't like to say leaders, government employees make that comment, and I kept thinking, what is the deal with that? Why do they keep making reference to that? I mean, that's a no-brainer, and I got online to see, do people actually think that? I mean, how ludicrous, how stupid. I mean, a plum has a higher IQ. 3 years later, I can't debunk it, and I haven't done anything compared to the big names in the Flat Earth Research Project, as I like to refer to it as, such as you or Rob Skiba or Mark Sargent or Eric Dubay, and I've been able to glean enough that there's like some dissension or maybe some infighting between some of the bigger names, not necessarily you with any of those, but I don't know what all that's about, and I haven't allowed myself to get bogged down in that.
That's a good thing.
I can't prove the globe Earth. There's nothing I can see, hear, feel, smell, touch that makes me believe in that. I've always had question about it. I've always seen things that made me go, and we're spinning around, flying through outer space. My indoctrination would always overpower my cognitive dissonance, and it's not doing that anymore. So,
welcome to the team.
I guess I'm calling in. Yes, I mean, I feel like I should be in a metal folding chair in a small room in the back of a church or in a civic auditorium and standing up and saying, "Hi, my name is," and I'm and start the 12-step program.
My name is Jeran, and I used to believe in the globe. Yeah. No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I am. I did watch the one video or listen to the one audio file, whatever, of your history with CVS and the pharmacy, because I'm thinking, who is this guy? First of all, you blow my doors off with your intellect, your intelligence. You might not be a scientist, but you very well could be. And your sarcasm is second to none. I'm a big fan of sarcasm. I dish it out with I write scripts for it. I write prescriptions for it, and your sarcasm is excellent. But it definitely proves many, many points, and it underscores your message, and does so with some dry wit and some intellect that I very much enjoy hearing.
Oh man, I couldn't say thank
you.
That's awesome to hear.
Your story's an incredible one.
Yeah, and it continues to get more incredible, to be honest. I mean, it just is the way life has gone for me, and you nailed it perfectly. That I think that I could get up there and scream and yell about the way I see things, and that's not the way I want it done. And I obviously have seen the problems with teaching people or having people follow you. Like, the last thing in the world I want is a follower, or the last thing I want to be is a guru. All I have the ability to do is what I think is hard to get to start doing, which was, hey, I'm going to make a video. I'm going to say what I feel. I'm going to take the abuse that I get, because I saw it at the time, and I can admit this now, that I just wanted to know the truth. I really wanted to know the truth so bad that I said,
that's where I am.
Right. I'll take the abuse. I don't care if you want to call me an idiot, whatever. Let's prove what you taught us all when we were so young. And then going forward, it will be better for everyone, for children growing up, for everyone, because they'll understand, hey, you didn't do a good job teaching this, so it needs to be reformatted, reformulated, whatever, so that it could get out and people could understand it and accept it more. And what I've learned in 3.5 years is there's an absolute reason why they couldn't do it that way. Now, that's just, again, is in my opinion, absolutely. And I tell people all the time, don't trust me, don't believe me, do your own research, go out there, check it for yourself, because I'm positive enough at this point in that you might go out and you might, if you're just looking to reconfirm that you live on a globe, you're going to go out there and you're going to find all the evidence that's been laid right there at your feet for you to find. And that's fine. And if you are a true truth seeker, you're going to find some things in that initial search that are going to make, like you said, that you can't debunk. That you can't debunk this idea. You can't prove the globe without needing NASA, without needing government. And so from that, all I want is people to think about it, because it's something I never got to think about. You said yourself that when you grew up, you remember having a few questions, and so do I. And I can't remember detailed dates and times and where I was, but I remember thinking exactly what you said. Just coming out of the house and looking around, and just for that split second, you think, wait, we're spinning on a ball in space, and then quickly you forget that you were even talking about that, right? You're like, no, that's crazy. Crazy people talk like that. I tell a story, I don't know if you ever heard it, but a guy called me one time and said he was on a flight across country, and he said he was looking out the window, and this is like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. He's looking out the window, and he was thinking to himself, why does the Earth look so flat from this airplane? And he's thinking it, and he's looking at all this. He said it was a beautiful day, super clear. So there's a guy sitting in the middle seat, and the guy's kind of leaning over, somebody would in the middle seat of a plane, to kind of look out the window while you're the window seat looking out the window. So he kind of turned and saw the guy looking outside, and he said, hey, do you ever think that the Earth looks flat? And the guy in the middle seat says, yeah, if you're a fucking idiot. And he's like, oh, gee, and he said from that moment on, he's never in the last 15 years, if it ever started to come up in his mind, he immediately knew to just forget it. Like, what am I talking about? Only fucking idiots think that way. And just because that one guy's statement, and and then he started hearing all this stuff, same thing as you've heard, same thing as other people have heard, and started looking into it, and he like felt so at home, because he's like, man, I felt like something was wrong. I felt like it looked like it was flat. And I felt that things that we were taught weren't right, but this guy was able to get me to shut up with just that one statement. And it's really because we were all taught that, and it's one of the biggest pieces of evidence that is hard for some people to understand, but it really comes down to the way we were taught, the way we were indoctrinated, the way it's on every commercial, on every logo, and it's just everywhere. This idea of the globe, it's in your face constantly. And when you look for the proof and the evidence of it, man, you're right. I'm with you. You can't. You have a hard time not proving that, or you have a hard time proving that it's a ball. And so for me, go ahead.
To elaborate on it's everywhere. It so genuinely is. It is absolutely everywhere, and propaganda and indoctrination is not effective if it's sparsely dispensed. When I would watch a movie come on in a movie theater on that big screen, and you see the ball Earth spinning, I think it's Universal or someone has that for a logo.
Right.
Every movie I'd ever see that had that, I would be going, you are here, and I don't feel the seat moving. Of course, you're out there on the West Coast. I'm on the wrong coast, apparently. And, we don't have earthquakes here very often. We have had them. And there was one about 5 years ago, I think it was in Virginia, that matriculated across into West Virginia and Pennsylvania and the Eastern Seaboard. And I felt it. I was laying on the couch, and I thought that something else was occurring. And I thought, what is that? And I looked around, and I noticed that the ceiling fan it was off. It began to sway, and I'm like, and I got up to look around, is there, a boulder rolling down the hill? What's going on? And then all of a sudden I get an alert on my phone saying earthquake on the eastern, U.S. And so that was a little teeny movement of the earth, and yet we're to believe that this giant orb, 25,000 miles in circumference at its belt line, is spinning around at 1,038 miles per hour, hurtling through space, and yet you don't see anything that would confirm that. You don't feel anything. I've had lots of things throughout my life made me sit there and stare at it, and I immediately dispense with it because I don't want to be construed as an idiot or a moron or whatever. I've got a boat that stays moored to the lake year round, and And I've been out on it before and literally been out there for hours and look around and realize the water is complete. You could see a mosquito land on the water and cause a rippling wave. But up until that very moment, no movement whatsoever. And yet we're supposed to be spinning around at 1,038 miles an hour. And it doesn't make sense. I've seen a bunch of the videos where the tennis ball spins. You see anything spinning is going to sling, it's going to move toward the middle and then through centrifugal force, sling it off. Why isn't the atmosphere just completely full of water? My analogy to a lot of this is sweater thread, like my little mental code name. And that is, you look down and you go, I got a thread loose here on my sweater, and you pull it, and next thing you know, you see the cuff on your left sleeve fall off, and you're like, what in the world? And then you look over and there's another one, and you pull that one and the collar just fell off, and here's one, and you pull this and the whole right sleeve fell off. And one of the things that Flat Earth has done to me is make me start questioning everything. And I realize you have to be careful at those threads you pick at and pull, unless you're prepared for the outcome or the fact that what you're expecting might not necessarily be the answer. And so when you start looking at Flat Earth, you start looking at, well, wait a minute, if the Earth isn't a ball, whether it's flat or an infinite plane or, the opposite of what we've been told, then what's the moon? And then I start looking at the moon, and there's so many times I see the shadow across the moon that does not comport with the Earth and the sun and the moon as they all three relate to each other. It's like, wait a minute, that can't cast that shadow. And of course, my indoctrination and my worldly teaching has been that the shape and shadows of the moon are secondary to the shadow of the Earth coming between the moon and the sun. And I'll look at the shape of the shadow on the moon and go, that can't be right. I'm on the East Coast, so I get the sun before you do. But now I'm thinking as it's traveling its circuit, not as the Earth is spinning. And the direction that the sun disappeared could not cast that shadow on the moon. And then I'm further confused, if you will, when I can stand and look straight up. We'll call that 12 o'clock. And at 10 o'clock, I see the moon. And between 2 and 3 o'clock, I see the sun. And yet I only see half a moon because it's shaded.
Right.
And it's like, how? That's impossible. If we base that on what worldly science tells us, in that shadow on the moon is supposed to be the Earth, and I have both the moon and the sun in full view. We're not between the two. So there are so many things you got to be careful which thread you pull, because then it starts unraveling a lot of other things that are part of, I think, the big lie and
it's crazy.
Great deception.
Your idea about the sweater and the yarn is something I found a while back when I was looking into the idea of clues and clue. That the word clue is actually originally spelled C-L-E-W, and it means a ball of yarn. And I've always thought that was interesting, because if you were to go into a labyrinth or a maze, that the best thing that you could have with you would be a ball of yarn, so that you could lead your track and you could know where you've come from. Oh, I've already gone that path. I need to move my this way. Right. So the idea of it being a clue is interesting, because what you're talking about is exactly that. It's one clue after another as you go through this ball of yarn that starts having the globe Earth idea fall apart piece by piece by piece. And that's why I have the hardest time when anybody asks me, what's your best evidence that the Earth is flat? I say all my videos. I can't give you one thing. Yeah, I can't give you one thing. There's too many. It's been set up in a way that for you to come to the conclusion that you've been lied to takes knowing so much that you've been lied to about, that you can then start to say, okay, well, then I'm able to open my mind and say, what if? And from that, then more clues come and more evidence comes, and then you get to see how science has progressed and why they keep pushing these certain narratives, and when things come out that would go against their narrative, how quickly they're shut down. So, I mean, yeah, you said it perfectly. And another thing you said earlier, you were talking about, real quick, I'll just say this, you were talking about propaganda. And I don't know if you ever heard this quote by... Thank you, Bush. So, yeah, I mean, you said it. Speak it over and over again. Keep pushing it, keep pushing it, keep pushing it so that the truth sinks in. Or what if it's not the truth?
I don't know if that was your audio or mine, but I lost part of that when you asked me if I had heard a certain quote.
Oh, I didn't know if you would hear that or not. So I was playing. I wonder if I lost the whole show. It does happen on occasion. Let me make sure. No, I think we're still on. No, I showed there was a sample, a clip of George Bush saying that in his line of business, you need to repeat things over and over and over again until the truth sets in. He's got to catapult the propaganda. So
I have heard that before, and it's also akin to some of the propaganda from Goebbels and Hitler during World War II.
Same thing.
You know, and
it's
just a different. It's an English version. It doesn't have the Wehrmacht in it.
No.
Yes, it's.
When you talk about the beginning of every movie and these things, that whether or not it is the truth that they're getting out, they've already learned that by putting out anything over and over and over again, that he just called it the truth by saying, this is how I get the truth to set in. But people need to understand that that is also the way that you would get an untruth to set in.
Exactly. It's simply the agenda. It's the way to get your agenda believed to say it, repeat it. It's like in any given speech. If you've had any speech or drama, speech and debate courses, any speech you give, the typical format is, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you've told them. And then the cycle of learning that is just keep repeating it and, just drill it in. And once it becomes a new norm, in air quotes, everyone is accepting of it, then for there to be an outlier to question it, they become the anomaly and the odd one out.
Absolutely. In a time of
what is it?
Time of universal deceit, telling the truth becomes the I don't know the quote, admirable thing to do. I don't know what he says. George Orwell says.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've heard the quote too that a sane man in an insane society, he himself appears to be insane.
Right.
So there's a woman that recently, this may have been on your show, I may have heard it somewhere before, that was fired from her job in Australia and was sued and got like $20,000 in compensation because she was talking at break time in the break room, coffee break, whatever, about the things she begins to question, and one of which was the flat earth. So a fellow employee reported her to a supervisor, who then immediately ordered her on mental health leave, sent her an email saying you're to take this leave immediately, and you can't come back to work until you've been evaluated by
Wait, was it
physician.
a pilot?
And I think they may have. No, it wasn't a pilot.
Oh, okay. I was going to say
that
story. Well, that happened with a pilot that we had on Globebusters once, and I think she was on Globebusters, and then she had us remove her name because she was getting some backlash of it. But yeah, she was a pilot, and they told her she was grounded because she questioned the shape.
I heard that. Yeah. I heard that episode. I haven't caught them all, and I'm kind of surfing the channel, so to speak. So I hit a lot of different ones, and
well, that's good. But you said somebody actually. You said that this girl actually made money. She actually got a judgment in her favor.
That's correct. $20,000 is what was reported.
Wow.
She basically sued her employer, and was awarded $20,000, and said that the court substantiated her right to freely think, which how absurd that is these days. If you don't think with the mainstream, I can't believe from the clip you just played a little bit ago. I was about ready to do a forehead smack because I'm thinking I'm agreeing with Kanye West. But as that interview went on, I was like, wow. I mean, some of the stuff he said, and I don't know much about him. I don't know anything really about him, but it was profound. Some of the stuff he said was very profound and left me dumbstruck, momentarily dumbstruck. In fact,
it's perfect. I try and say that all the time, is that we can listen to anybody. Like, there's so much about what he says that's just horseshit, nonsense, garbage. But you can still find in everybody something that is true and can have meaning to your life and can have understanding for your life. So I love when I find these kind of gems where most people in a flat Earth movement or in a truth movement are going to hear Jimmy Kimmel and Kanye West and say, I'm not listening to a second of that. And normally I would be the same. But sometimes I kind of lead myself to say, okay, what? I think in this particular case, my sister had asked me if I'd seen it. And I said, no. She said, oh, you should check it out. So I just check it out. And when I hear that, I'm like, well, no wonder she wanted me to listen to this, because it's a lot of the stuff I talk about. It's just crazy that he would come out and say the same things.
Well, one of the things about the subject as it relates to the Earth not being a spinning ball, and what prompted me to look into it, like I said, was I felt like many of the people I've heard go, this is stupid. This is just absolutely, surely people don't think this. And then, I'm on the internet that night, and next day I wake up and it's crossed my mind, and I think, yeah, I'll go check that. And then 3 weeks turns into 3 months, and now about 3 years, and it's like, when you can't disprove it, unless, of course, you just repeat what you've been told or follow the guidelines from NASA, which even with NASA, they can't. It's like any lie.
Right.
The truth always speaks for itself. A lie can never support itself on all four corners, above and below and in the middle, all simultaneously. And then we go right back to the yarn or the sweater thread,
right? And
that it's easy to start picking it apart.
Right. And never be perfect. A lie cannot be perfect. So, or
that's
would
right.
be true.
Truth always is, and that's exactly right. I agree with that. I will say this: if you have a moment, if you got somebody waiting, boot me off. That's fine. I understand. But
2 minutes till the break.
Okay, I'll be quick about this. I'm a Christian. I know that based on what I've heard from what videos and things that I've heard of you, that's not your belief set, and I understand that. But it's making me go back and read Genesis chapter 1, and I read it with different filters on my eyes and my mind now, as it relates to the firmament, as it relates to the Bible says there was light before there was the greater light and the lesser light.
Sure does. Yeah.
The moon and the sun as we know them today. But things that I look at as it relates to the spinning ball, if Joshua commanded, it does not say in the Bible, Joshua commanded the earth to stop so the sun would stay in its place so he could continue to battle. It says he commanded the sun to stop. Conversely speaking, the world would say, well, if that's true, the earth would have to stop. I look at every single tree being uprooted, like slamming on the brakes in your car, everything in the back of the car comes to the front. Every pond, every creek, every river, every ocean would have emptied. And then you got the whole thing of, well, if Big Bang started us spinning after Joshua commanded the earth to stop, what started us back up again?
Big Bang number 2.
Or Big
Bang 2.
It's things like that. Or there's accounts in the Bible where the earth actually, time actually, I should say, moved backwards. And that means the earth would have to come to a complete stop, click, click, put it in reverse, and hit the gas and start spinning backwards for that part of the Bible to be true. However, the sun stopping its circuit and the moon stopping its circuit is logical and plausible compared to the earth slamming on the brakes, leaving an interstellar cosmic skid mark through outer space, and then having to, put it back in drive and give her the gas and get spinning back up to speed again, like spooling up a jet engine.
Maybe, I don't know if you didn't know, but the fabric of space-time actually does not allow skid marks. So there would be no skid.
I have not found that in my research yet, but
I'll find you the link. It's Brian Cox who tells us about the skid markability of fabric of space. No, I mean,
I'm noting it now. Thank you for the insight.
Yes, no, you're welcome. And yeah, I'd be a fool if I didn't say that the Bible really well matches the idea of the flat Earth. For me, again, it just always comes down to I'm afraid of what man has done to everything on this earth. They have corrupted, damaged, destroyed, changed, perverted everything. And so that's my position on that. Appreciate the call. It was a great call. Don't go anywhere, guys. We got another hour. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw.
Well, it comes with cost, a price too large, as if we're really just born to die.
Censorship and regulation is becoming an ever-growing problem in today's modern media. From the mainstream to YouTube and Google, the information you're looking for is buried by official narratives and propaganda. This is why TFR is 100% uncensored, unregulated, and listener-supported. The shows on TFR are not micromanaged by the station, and our hosts are free to speak their minds however they please. As such, the views and opinions expressed on our station are of those who make them. If you happen to hear anything offensive on TFR, please send us an email to toughtitty@tfrlive.com, and we'll be happy to tell you that we really don't give a damn. We stand for freedom of speech and non-censorship. If you also stand for free speech, you can go to tfrlive.com/signup and sign up for a TFR supporter pass and help us in our mission to keep the airwaves uncensored and unregulated. TFR Live, your uncensored and unregulated protection from the set.
Hurricane Florence, new tell-all book. I'm Ann Cates. Hurricane Florence continues to take aim at the Carolinas.
We've seen the system go from a Category 1 earlier this morning to a 2, a 3, now wind speeds of 140 miles an hour. The rapid intensification certainly undergoing some change, but the path of the storm remains largely unchanged and on track to make landfall near Wilmington, North Carolina, Thursday night into Friday morning. I'm meteorologist John Trout.
More than 1.5 million people along the coast from South Carolina to Virginia are under evacuation orders. A new CNN poll finds less than 1/3 of Americans approve of the way President Trump is handling his job. Correspondent Caitlin Collins reports the White House is still focused on a book that will be released tomorrow.
Sarah Sanders taking aim at Bob Woodward over his tell-all book on the Trump White House.
To not even take the time to get a $10 fact checker to call around and verify that some of these quotes were happening. When no effort was made, it seems like a very careless and reckless way to write a book.
Trump highlighting denials from Defense Secretary James Mattis and Chief of Staff John Kelly, though Woodward says they're just trying to protect themselves.
A white Dallas police officer who shot and killed a black man after mistaking Botham Jean's apartment for hers has been charged with manslaughter. The victim's mother, Allison Jean, wants investigators to get to the bottom of it.
I'm not satisfied that we have all the answers. And the number one answer that I want is what happened. I have asked too many questions and I've been told that there are no answers yet.
The Dallas County District Attorney says her office will present the case to a grand jury, which may consider other charges against the police officer. On Wall Street, the Dow fell 59 points. The Nasdaq closed up 22. I'm Ann Cates.
Wherever you are, make it Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining me. Up, we've got a disconnection again. Womp, 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 womp. It's my soundboard, by the way. What is going on? Hopefully that fixed it. I don't know if it did or didn't. Doesn't look like it. Try again. Let's see here if we can get any phone calls on the board. All right. Phone lines are up. The show is up. 213-233-3998. Pick up your telephone. Dial area code 213-233-3998. The lines are completely open. I appreciate that last caller a lot. Thank you for all the kind words you said, and I agree with everything you said. If I had a book that I had written, I would send it to you and I would sign it. So, tell Dave to chew on that one. And we got no calls, so we will just talk it out, us guys. We'll just have a little. Oh, that's pretty funny. That just for the sake of talking about the yesterday. Was it yesterday? I don't know. Yeah, we went to a nickel arcade. I don't know if you've ever been to one of those. Costs like $2.50 to get in. And all the games are nickel. But was playing the I don't know if it's called Daytona, I believe. Daytona 500 or something. You play with 4 people, you race a little car. It's fun. One of the funniest things that happened there is at the start of the race it says, "Gentlemen, start your engines." So I just thought that was really funny because I was at that particular time with Missa and there was another little girl playing. It was us 3 and, well, "Gentlemen, start your engines." So I just can't picture the boardroom where somebody didn't bring up. Do you think that any girls might play this game, Jim? Maybe. Nah, let's just keep it gentlemen. Sounds fine. Pretty funny. There probably is many times throughout the day that it's not a gentleman playing that game. But what do I know? I'm just some radio show host, YouTube creator. I guess that's what they call us. I don't know. So, again, phone lines 213-233-3998. We talked about Kanye West. Let's go to the... yes, the phones work. We know. No, I'm just kidding. What's up?
Exactly right, Jeran. Yeah. So, until you get somebody on the line.
Well, here's the problem, though. Here's the thing.
I'm happy to...
It makes it look like I have no listeners. It makes it look like nobody cares. Like, if you didn't call in, then I could pretend the phone lines didn't work. Like, sorry, folks. I know a ton of you tried to get in tonight, but the phone lines don't work. But when you call in each time and tell people, nope, phone lines work, they're wide open. I'm just kidding. I love you. But I think...
I care, Jared. I care.
And there are
I'm sorry.
There's so many people trying to get in, but I think that you have some super-powered phone that actually dumps all those phone calls and then goes to you, and then the phone lines aren't able to be opened back up until after you get off. Just so you know.
I am Canadian. It's a Canadian thing.
What's that all about,
So, yeah, blame Canada. Just blame Canada.
So what else?
And I'm sorry.
Community.
Oh, no. There's nothing I can talk about that I should talk about, so I got to not talk about it. But,
just their mouth.
Yeah. Oh, no. It's been bad. It's been horrible.
Oh, it's been bad.
And, yeah.
Oh, boy, yes.
Horrible. Like, not on the air talking sort of talk. Yeah. Bad week.
I do a very bad
Anyway.
That people probably know me for at this point is that I try and shush all that out by just turning it off and not listening to it because it's too much nonsense. That last caller called in and says, I think there's something between all you. It's like, yeah, I don't even know what it is either. So it's just like, whatever. But, yeah, I mean, the moral of the story is you've got a truth community that is very weary of everything. And that includes every other person who's also speaking the truth. Because people, for some strange reason, think that everybody must think the exact same thing as you. Like you said about dinosaurs. There's people out there that I've seen make comments on my videos like, Jeran is out of his mind. He's definitely a plant because he believes in dinosaurs. And it's like, folks, if you just listen to what these people say. Yeah, I don't believe in dinosaurs as in 67 million years ago. If you're talking about big animals, yeah, I believe in big animals. There's big animals today. And if you dug deep enough, I'm sure you could find some of their bones. And if we could accurately date them, I'm pretty sure they would date within the last few tens of thousands of years, not millions of years. And there's so much evidence of that everywhere, and people just refuse to look at it. They just want to close their eyes to things. And I just see things a different way. I look at it and I say, hey, if they're just faking all dinosaur bones and every animal bone that they find, then there would be full sets of dinosaur bones. But there's not. There's never been a full set found. Why? Well, if they're faking it all, pretty sure there would be a full set found. But I mean, here's the thing. The difference is I don't care if somebody doesn't believe that dinosaurs ever existed, meaning they don't believe there's ever been a T-Rex or a brontosaur, whatever. I don't care. It doesn't bother me because it doesn't make a difference in how you act today, in what kind of person you are. Now, if you believe in the 67 million year old dinosaurs, then I start to want to have a conversation with you, because then I think that you are simply believing in the words of men. You're not doing your own research and finding out things that are happening in the paleontology world. And that's where we can get into these conversations. But there's so many people out there that, like, if you mention the Holocaust, it's like, you believe in the Holocaust, then you're not a truther. It's like, hold on a second. Like, people just need to relax, slow down, get to the root cause of these issues, and let's bang them out. But it's not always as cut and dry as that person believes the Holocaust took place, then that person is not a truth seeker. No, that person may have a little bit more research to do, or maybe there's a little bit of uncovering they can still find. But I think that the truth community is so hit or miss.
But I forget that people haven't looked into this, too. So I know that dinosaurs are bogus, but the average person isn't going to necessarily know it. But I just have learned that over the years, and it's like...
And lead them to...
Sure, again, you're big animals, but it's not what they told us.
No,
everything is not what they told us.
Right. Bring up a page of dinosaurs and just look at what they give to children. It's like the most crazy looking creatures you've ever seen, with like a stripe and a horn and side claws, and it's just ridiculous what they try and show people as being the truth. And again, people just accept it. That's the sad thing, is what is wrong with questioning things? I don't see a problem with it. I see absolutely zero problem with questioning anything at all. And for some reason, we live in a world where there's certain things you can't question. And to me, that's insane. I would much rather listen to somebody who questions things, because out of the 15 things they question and the reasons why they question those things, I bet you there's some pure gems of like, wow, I never thought about that. Wow, you're absolutely right. That does make sense. Why do we told this when it could be this? That makes sense to me. The other idea where you just say, what, this person's speaking out of the norm, they're saying something that we weren't taught was the facts, therefore they need to be shut up, is crazy. And those people have no idea about the First Amendment or why it exists or why it's the most important, the most impressive or the most important gift that we're given. The most, I don't know if you want to call it a right. Yeah, it's the most important right that we have. That you have that right to free speech. It could save the world from a lot of damage, unless you have somebody going around telling people what can and can't be said.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's no getting around that.
Nope. So. Yep, and your superpowering phone calls are destroying the phone lines. But I will give the number again in case somebody has an equally powered up cell phone: 213-233-3998. But go ahead, Brian, continue.
The 1-800 number for my fellow Canadians, 1-866-268-7884. That's 26 truth.
Wow. So now I've got to.
Sorry.
$65, and I've got to split it. Basically, I got to give you $3, so that's 62. Okay. Redo.
No. You have to copy. You have got to copyright my my channel and all that, because I don't monetize it already, so it's not like I'm getting anything. And you do 80% of the work.
85.
So
I do 85%.
Oh, if not 90.
Yeah, if not 90.
It could be 90.
Could be 90 or 92.
Either way, you should absolutely be
definitely more than 80.
Not striking, but just claiming. Claiming's the word.
Claiming that finance?
Because
yes.
Yeah.
So are
somebody else does.
Somebody else will come along and do it anyway, so you're right. That's why I make sure I do it. No. Let's see if so. Yeah, you said you don't want to talk about the bad stuff in the community. That's a smart move.
Yeah. It's
keep that stuff deeply inside as well. No. Obviously, I let.
That's what I do. I bottle it in, Jeran.
That's the one thing I don't
bottle it in.
Kind of let it all hang out there. Going commando, I think they call it.
That's a story for another day.
Yeah, I guess so. Trying to think of what else. Did you watch any Neil deGrasse with Joe Rogan or any Elon Musk with Joe Rogan?
Well, they done something in like the past week.
Elon Musk was just on Joe Rogan for the first time ever. Did you not know that?
I've been talking about Elon Muskrat, the rat that I caught in my house that I named Elon Muskrat.
Nice.
But no.
Oh, I would have stomped on it.
I wanted to release him, but it was raining, and he died before I could release him.
Oh,
I'm sure it was just a panicky rat issue, but I still felt bad because I had full intentions of releasing.
You are fake news.
Pretty sure it's fake news. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. There is video, but it's never been posted.
Okay, Neil deGrasse.
I feel so bad for that rat. I really do, because I never want to kill anything, ever.
And nonetheless, he is.
Oh, the price is right. So, is anybody else called in?
I haven't been on that board. Hold on a second. I was actually on my soundboard. Having fun with that. There is other calls. I should let you.
Sorry. All right. Good night, Jeran.
All right, let's get another caller on the line. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from? And why are you still listening?
Oh, Jeran. Jeran, you there?
Yes, I was taking a sip. Sorry. Hello.
Hello. Hey, Jeran. This is Chris. I'm calling from New York.
Chris from New York.
I'm calling because there's something you just said about how, you believe it, it's okay, question everything, and I'm with you on that. So kind of switching gears a little bit, I want to know, what is your opinion on the Miracle on the Hudson plane crash? Oh, excuse me, water landing that happened in New York, what is it now, probably about 8, 9, 10 years ago. Do you think that was legit? Were we told the truth about that?
I have a hard time believing that we're told the truth about anything, but
I agree with you 100%. But like, if they faked that, like if that was, I'm sure you and I are probably on the same page on probably 99% of all things. Just so you know, I'm also a friend of David Weiss, so he and I are in contact with each other. I'm sure.
David Weiss and I have talked.
He had me as a guest on his Flat Earth podcast one time. So.
Oh, okay. David Weiss and I had talked about it. I actually think that event was real. To be honest, I don't know if that's here or not.
I'm like, I did what I usually do when something happens. I'll go to Google or YouTube and type in whatever, and then throw in the word hoax. Like Sandy Hook school shooting hoax, Orlando shooting hoax, and then you can, you used to be able to find a lot of stuff on it, but now with all the censorship that YouTube's and Google have been doing over the last year and a half or so, it's just been harder to find things. But it's hard to find, information about that event other than what we were told happened, and then of course, they made a movie of it, called Sully with Tom Hanks. And, I want to believe that that's what happened, but the likelihood of, a bird strike knocking out both engines, just to start with that, is very, very, very small. And then to land that thing safely. But my problem is I wouldn't know how they could have faked it. Like some of these, situations with, I saw one guy actually did a video on YouTube calling it a hoax and saying that the whole thing was a drill. He said, look, if they had the boats ready to go, and I'm like, yeah, but then how the hell did they get an airplane in the Hudson? Wait, did they somehow,
I mean, my opinion on this all is, and it always has been, that I think where we get a little bit, and this is something that the news does well, is if we get a little bit jumpy into the auto hoax, line of thinking, then you're going to think everything that the TV puts out is a hoax. Now, the problem with that is that we know that the news actually does real news, meaning, and I've said this before, if I go out tonight and I take a gun and I shoot 15 of my neighbors, that will make the news tomorrow. And it doesn't mean that it's fake. Now,
right.
So in saying that, what I'm saying is if something major happens, if there is a plane that takes off and gets a bunch of geese in its engines and has to land on the Hudson River and does, then the amount of coverage that we got makes sense to me. So it's not a matter of like the news says it, because I've heard people say, I've even heard Russian vids say it, and I've disagreed with it many times, where he says if it's in the mainstream news, then it's being pushed for a reason, and I don't totally disagree with that, meaning that they're going to take any event, especially if it's major like that, and they're going to try and spin it maybe a little bit, but in that particular case, I just haven't seen a lot of things that make sense of why they would do that one. Do you?
Right. No. But I do remember seeing something about, and they touched on it a little bit in the movie Sully, that this, Sully Sullenberg, whatever his name was, Chelsea Sullenberg, that he was part of some like safety thing on, how to like land on the water or something prior to him actually landing on the water. And they touched on it in the movie, they mentioned it when, like, as they're about to take off, and he said, like, "Oh wow, you've got this website about how you're like the the head of the safety for for flying planes or something." I thought that was a little sneaky, subtle, that something. There is a video, just so you know, there's like an 11-minute video on YouTube that says Sully U.S. Airways Flight 1549 crash hoax. I watched it. It didn't convince me that it was a hoax. It made me go, all right, maybe there's something here, but it wasn't like, oh my God. Like some of the times, you look at a video and go, oh my God, this is so obvious, But, I was just curious, like, what you thought about it, because David and I have actually had the conversation when this happened, a couple of years ago. It was like, please, don't take Sully away from us. Like, at least let this be the one thing that's real, that, like, it was a good story and, like a great thing that happened, God,
but, to be honest, I looked into it a while back, and there was an interview that was done either day or like a year after or 6 months after, where they talked to all the survivors, and there was something about that bothered me. And I'll get back to you on it. I'll have to talk about it next week, because I don't remember. I did come to the conclusion, like, I don't see any reason to hoax this, and that's kind of where sometimes I draw the line, is like, well, even if they were hoaxing, it's like people who say MH370 didn't happen. Okay, let's say that was a hoax. No plane got lost. Well, the benefit to the world that that's not a story they would want to get out, because it revealed the fact that planes flying in the southern hemisphere are not tracked constantly. So that's like a very bad thing for mainstream to release. They had people fooled into thinking that all plane flight was tracked nonstop. And so when this plane gets lost and they're like, oops, we don't know where this plane went. And then you look at the flat earth connotation with the bigger southern seas and the ideas that a lot of us have put across with could GPS be hiding different areas of water? All those things kind of come to the surface when you look at MH370 and say it wasn't a hoax. For the many people who say it is, I'm always asking what came out of it. Why would they hoax? What is the event? What is the reason for lying about it? Now,
what's the
motivation, right?
With anything, you have to come up with, okay, what's the motive? What's the reason? Just same thing with flat Earth, because anytime I try to get people on board with flat Earth, they always hit me with the question, and it's a legitimate question. Why would they bother? Why would they lie to us about the shape of the Earth? And it's a fair question. I can't disagree with it. And then I go into the whole, well, they're trying to hide God, and NASA's budget is $50 million. I go through whatever I think will try to wake them up. But yeah, there's always got to be a motive. You can't say like, well, yeah, they faked this, they faked that. This is a hoax. Well, yeah, here's why they did it. Because otherwise you got nothing.
Right, because you got people who would say, well,
I agree with you.
Why would they be lying about Sandy Hook? What is the reason for Sandy Hook? Well, you have to be able to answer that question. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense. Because if you say, oh, they just did it just to mess around with you. No, that's not true. There was a reason behind Sandy Hook. So once you get those people to understand that, and I think that there's a reason behind the flat Earth too. A lot of people have different opinions. Like you said, it could be hiding God. But I also think it's possible that they made a mistake, to be honest with you. I mean, without the visuals, the optical equipment that we have today, and I think within the last 50 years, obviously going to the moon, all that stuff is not true. But what I'm saying is, if you remove that and you kind of put them back into 1850, 1800, there is a huge possibility that they just went full board with this Earth's a ball, da-da-da. And if they would have ever realized it, they would have realized they couldn't be honest about it. That if they would have realized they made a mistake, They couldn't just say, oops, we're science, we made a mistake, because all of science is built off this idea of we're this random speck in this huge universe. That's what science has all been built around. You can't just go back and say, oops, sorry, we are important. We are the center. Oops, we are flat. Oops, we're not a sphere. Oops, space. It's just you've completely wrecked science at that point, at least in the eyes of any scientist, right? So that's why I think,
right.
What by the reason. But I totally agree with you that if you don't have the motive behind something, it doesn't mean that it cannot be true. I mean, just because, like, let's say you don't have a motive to why Sandy Hook happened, that means Sandy Hook must be real. No, not necessarily. I think it's an important question to ask somebody, is saying, well, if MH370 was a hoax, why? What is the benefit to the powers that be? And I've never heard a good one. Same thing with the Sullenberger. For me, I think that it's highly possible that could happen to a plane. I mean, not highly possible like it happens every day, but I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibilities that this plane needed to land in the Hudson River. Now, what you said was interesting about him being a member of this team or being somehow connected with water landings, because could it have been, like you said, some sort of a drill to where this was all planned to make sure that there's no boats on the Hudson at that time, and to make sure that this is a landing that they felt comfortable that this pilot could do? In that case, well, then you have to start looking at it and saying, okay, well, maybe there's a reason why they would drill something like that, right? But again, I just haven't been shown a reason why you would especially take the chance with people's lives if that was even, if the event actually happened, meaning that even if it's a drill and they're actually going to land a A320 or something on the Hudson River, that's right. Not,
Yeah, that's pretty damn dangerous,
Yeah, you make one little wrong turn on the wing and the wing gets clipped by the water or something, you're going to rip that thing to shreds. So, I mean, but then again, also, was it so dire that they needed to get down that quick? I mean, there's so many questions about it, but I appreciate the question, and I like to hear people thinking about things like that, because again, it doesn't hurt to question things. It just doesn't. It's not doing it to anybody. Nobody. I hate the people who say, like, you can't question Sandy Hook because your child didn't die. And I'd be like, you know what? You're full of it, because if my child died, I wouldn't have a problem with anybody questioning it. Question it all you want. It doesn't matter to me. Why would I care? My son died. He died in a school shooting, and a bunch of people out there want to say it's not true. Here's the evidence of my son being born. Here's his paperwork for the funeral home. Here's where we had his service. Here was his pictures from his open casket. You guys are ludicrous. That, to me, is not a problem, because it teaches people, if I would have looked at this evidence and this and that. But when we go looking for these things, they're all shut down. You can't get any information from any coroner about anything that happened in Florida at the Pulse nightclub shooting. You can't get any information from the FBI. It's been closed by the FBI. Sandy Hook information, you can't get it. Closed by the FBI. Those are huge signs to me.
Oh, Parkland, all of these. I mean, all you got to do is read the official government report of the Sandy Hook shooting. Go to page 27, and where it says about the shooter, meaning Adam Lanza, the autopsy, it said he was 72 inches tall and weighed 112 pounds. Game over. You're done at that point. He's 6 feet tall and weighed 112 pounds. He should have been in the hospital being treated for malnutrition, but somehow Adam Rambo Lanza blew away 26 people in 5 minutes, carrying 30 pounds of ammunition, which is 27% of his own body weight. That's impossible. And you're a moron if you believe that. You don't even need to go any further than that. That's it. Game over. We're done.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's in the official report.
And how many people he shot with the amount of bullets. It's like his kill percentage was like 98% or something, like, no military.
Oh, yeah, because it's been, almost 6 years? Have we seen anyone that got wounded from the Sandy Hook shooting?
Nope.
Wounded. So he was, 26 for 26, so, nobody wounded. Or, we heard reports, one or two, this person got wounded or whatever. Okay, then how come they haven't been interviewed on the news now that it's been years? Yes, I survived. I got hit with a fragment of a bullet or what? Nothing.
Right.
So he was the most accurate marksman in the history of mass shooting. Get the hell out of here. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And there's no video footage. The video cameras all over these schools, but we don't get to see one video. It's just like the Pentagon, the most protected building that there is in the history of the world, has 27 cameras lined up on the front of the building, and they can't show you one of a plane hitting it. Come on, people.
Right. It's absurd. I teach in a high school, so I know about the cameras all over the place. And no one's asking if it happened.
Appreciate the call so much. We'll be right back, guys. Got another half hour Give me a call. Jeran.
The ayahuasca vine is the non-psychoactive component of the South American healing ceremony, ayahuasca. It is known for its anti-parasitic properties, both physically and spiritually, and is considered the spirit of Aya. The hemp plant has been considered a miracle healer by natives around the world for the powerful non-psychoactive component, cannabidiol, also known as CBDs. These miracle plants have been reported to aid relief with everything from inflammation, chronic pain, tremors, anxiety, heart palpitations, depression, and much more. For the first time, we have created the perfect synergy of the hemp and ayahuasca plants to bring you a perfect balance of mind, body, and soul. We call this Aya Life, and you can find it at ayalife.com. That's AYALife.com.
Message and data rates may apply.
Hi, I'm Frank Thomas, the Big Hurt. After I left baseball, I just couldn't stay in shape like I used to. Turns out, once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone, and that can make it harder to get into shape. So I got back into the game with Nugenics. I'm feeling stronger with a lot more energy and drive. You want to get back into shape? Get Nugenics. All you have to do is send one simple text.
Frank's right. Just text STAY to 42424 to get a complimentary bottle of award-winning Nugenics, the #1 selling free testosterone booster at GNC. Its unique man-boosting formula is powered by Testofen, a patented key ingredient clinically researched to help a man feel stronger, leaner, more energetic, and more passionate.
And guys, she'll like the difference too.
Nugenic samples are not available in stores. To get your complimentary bottle, text STAY to 42424. That's STAY to 42424.
We exist in the security and comfort of our worlds. Paved paths, lights, and manicured lawns give us peace of mind that our world has been tamed, and we are its master. But other worlds exist on the edge of our sight. On the edge of our awareness, the shadows move. The woods fill with the unblinking eyes of the nightmares our ancestors warned us about. Some of us have stumbled into these forgotten realms, whether on purpose or completely by surprise. I'm Brent Thomas. Join us on the Paranormal Portal Friday and Saturday nights from 10 p.m. to midnight Pacific Standard Time as we journey into the world of the paranormal phenomena.
Enter the Paranormal Portal. If you dare.
You are now tuned into the truth frequency.
Your protection from deception. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back. You are listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw, where we are taking calls all night long from Brian in Niagara Falls. So if you're interested in listening to that, stay tuned. It should be fun. What could be more fun, really, right? The answer, of course, is nothing. No, we've got calls lined up. They are actually starting to line up the board. 213-233-3998. Get in line if you'd like to talk. First caller, you're up. Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from?
This is your meatballer caller.
Meatballer caller.
I've been waiting for you since. Yes, I've been waiting on you since Thursday. I saw you had your live feed there up, and I guess it's still up, waiting for you to come and transmit from Monterey Bay.
Is that what it says?
But I'd really like to see whatever video you took from that. And I was just looking. You were talking about the water going up or going down. Actually, it looked like it was probably going down. And I went over and I was checking on the tide chart. So it looks like high tide happened at 1:44 p.m. and low tide happened at 7:54 p.m. So the high tide was at about 4.6 feet and low tide was at 1.7 feet. So during the time you were there, you should have seen like a 2-foot drop in the water level.
Okay, so when you say 2-foot drop,
does that sound about right?
Well, no. I mean, if you're talking about, you're viewing across 25 miles of water, and the water line that we're talking about, it varies drastically. Like if you're talking
No,
about...
I'm talking about at the shoreline.
Okay, so...
I'm talking about when you go down to the shore. You know how when you're at the beach and sometimes the tide comes in and then the tide goes out?
Okay, so get the picture real quick. I'm actually 30 feet higher than the water where I was at. And on the other side of the water, that person was 15 feet above the water line. And we were trying to get a direct line of sight between his mirror signaling the sun behind me. Makes sense? But when I look through my camera, you see the water line, and then behind it, you start to see the trees. You don't see the beach. Okay, but here's the thing.
No, I understand, but you were... Go ahead.
Well, I was saying that the water line, talking about the water through the camera, you're talking about water down at the shore, right? Are you saying that 3 to 4 feet in tide change would cause the water line to raise and lower, revealing the beach, revealing the trees, revealing the beach, then up above the beach?
I don't know. I have no idea what you were seeing because you didn't have any video up there for me to see anything, so I don't know what you were seeing. But I'm just saying, during the time you were there, all along the coast of California, around the San Francisco Bay Area and where you're at, Monterey Bay. I've looked up Monterey Bay specifically.
Right.
From 2 p.m. was high tide at 4.6 feet. I'm just saying some of the change that you might have seen. Of course, again, I have no idea what you saw.
And I'll load the video.
Could have been because of the tide.
And you said something.
So anyway, I was saying it.
You said, hold on, real quick. You said something about you saw a video waiting for me. What are you talking about with that?
Yeah, if you go over to your channel right now on YouTube,
right,
it's still sitting there saying waiting to, we'll start momentarily. Your broadcast will start momentarily. So it's still up there waiting for you to start the show.
I went live twice.
And I've seen the day that you were...
Yeah, the day we were out.
Okay, I don't know what's going on, but anyway, I've seen like 20-some people on there waiting for you and then, dropped off. And
weird, because I'm looking at the YouTube page right now and there's no video there. I could never get it to go live. And for you to say that, I was like, well, what are you looking at? And when I go to my channel, I don't see any video waiting for me to go live. But maybe, I don't know, there could be some...
Yeah,
I have to sign out or something and look at it from another way. But
yeah, I don't know. I don't know either.
Twice, yeah, we tried to go live twice, and both times, as soon as I went live, then the app, on your phone went back to the home screen like the app crashed. So I was like, what the hell's going on? Then we tried it again, same thing. But it must be still thinking I'm going to go live to that, so I'll try and find that video. I just went to my back room right now, and there is video. There's no video for me to even delete. So I'm not really sure what I can do to get rid of whatever you're talking about you're seeing if the video doesn't exist on my end. So anyway, but what we saw...
Yeah, I don't know either.
Okay, so what we saw, though, was the water blocking the beach, right? But it was supposed to be blocking 150 feet, not just the beach. And so if that water line, let's say on some part of the day it reveals part of the beach, and on other parts of the day it covers more of those trees, well, that can't be the case if it's because of the tide. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, I don't know what... I would have to see what you're seeing so I could say...
Yeah, and I'll
exactly what's going on. So I'm just saying, I just saw that the tide. I'm just putting that into the mix. Gotcha. But anyways, I've been thinking about you over the past. You were missing last week, but I was thinking about this thing of trying to see distance, seeing things in the distance that shouldn't be able to be seen. And I got to thinking about that, and there are amateur radio operators that do something similar to that, which is called DXing. DXing, as distance transmission and receiving, distance communication. Mm-hmm. And so what they try to do is communicate to people around the world by skimming their transmission around, and of course I'm going to talk globe, skimming it around the ionosphere or around the low waves around the Earth to talk to distant places. And so they don't do it as saying, hey, I'm trying to disprove the world, but they do it as like a hobby, saying, hey, I'm skilled at this. I aim my antenna just right, and I can pick up these people long distance and talk to them for a while, and it's fun to do, and that's what.
So here's one thing
that's what they like to do. So
yeah, totally cool. I've seen how they do that, and I've talked with Bob, my co-host on Globebusters. Just so you know, did you know that in order to figure out what direction to send that radio signal, that the map that you use is the AE equidistant, azimuthal equidistant map? That perfectly lines up your directionals? That's a map you can use, meaning that if you flatten out the globe, flatten out the map, and you use north as the center, and then you base your direction, say from, I don't know, from Spain to New York, that if you use that directional, that's exactly how you aim your radio signal? That you use that map, not the map?
Well, I believe you can use the globe map and use a globe, and again, you're still using north, south, east, west, and also, azimuth is up, how much up into the atmosphere you're hitting, so you can try to bounce it off of one of the layers of atmosphere, so that up and down. But as far as, for example, they try to do it two different ways though, because it's a hobby. They're trying to do things sometimes the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, let's say where you're at in California, if you want to try to hit Australia, then you would point your antenna to the southwest to hit Australia.
Totally. Now, what I'm trying to say is,
but
does that prove?
Okay, but if you
hold on, does that prove to you that you live on a ball, when that could easily be the case from a flat Earth? Easily. So.
Okay, but here's the other thing. That's the short distance. Now they could try to go the long distance, go the other way around the Earth, and they point their antenna to the northwest. So you can either go southeast or northwest. And if you go northwest, then you're going the long way around to talk to somebody in Australia.
But that's not been done.
So that they can do it either way.
You're saying
that go ahead. And, I mean, there's plenty of people that are not. You're not listening to me or whatever. But
I'm asking you, what is the longest then? You're saying that
what is the longest?
You're saying that that a radio is connected from the United States, let's say California, going northeast around to Australia? That's what you're saying?
North? No, it would be south, north. Let me get my head out here, right? Northeast. You would be pointing at. Oh God, man! You should go south, and you would go southwest to Australia the short way, or you would go north. Am I even thinking this right? I'm sorry, I've got my head.
No problem. Just think about that. Because
I've got my head messed up here.
Well, you can.
So anyway, you go northwest. Yes, you will go southwest to hit Australia the short way, or you will go northeast to go the long distance around to hit Australia. I mean, you get out the globe and you put the string there. You see what the directions are.
Right.
But I mean, they try it both ways.
Are you talking about with connecting stations along the way, meaning I send it from California up to Canada?
No.
Or Canada. You're thinking that
like an amateur radio guy sitting in California, and there's an amateur radio guy sitting there in Australia, and they have certain frequencies that they try to communicate on. They're popular communication frequencies that they do that on.
I will do you a favor. I will definitely talk about that next week. Let me do some research on it, because I certainly don't think that is possible. But I know that in the early 19...
And again, this is called DX.
Yeah, DX.
ING, and it's been done since
early
the 50s at least.
Yeah, 1950s they were doing it. I know in 1930s they were doing like London to New York. I know that they've done Hawaii to the United States. So I know that those things have taken place, but I just didn't know anybody that thinks it can go halfway around the Earth. So I will look into that before I make any comments on that. But I will talk about that for sure next week.
The other thing that amateur radios do, amateur radio operators. I've been thinking about this again. Okay, I think I had heard you. I've heard a couple different things from you. That at one point you were saying that you didn't think light had a speed, but at other times you it seemed to think that light did have a speed. So what is your thinking about light or radio waves? Do they have a speed in your mind or no?
Calculatable exact speed, no. Because you're talking about through what? In a vacuum? Are you talking about through Earth's atmosphere? Or are you talking about through mediums, through water?
Well, I'm just talking about normally, in a vacuum, what the normal standard is for scientific people using.
Well, I think if you're talking about where I said it breaks the second law of thermodynamics, which may have not been the right law, but what I was saying is if a beam enters a water tank, then they say that the direction is changed because the speed of the laser beam has slowed down through the water.
Right.
But then when it gets to the other side of the tank, it comes out back at the speed of light. So that doesn't make any sense. How did it get? Where did it gain power?
Okay, so I'm just trying to get to where you're coming from. All right, so now how about radio waves?
Do they travel at a certain speed? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's something else that the amateur radio operators do as a hobby, is they bounce they have antennas and they point them at the moon and they bounce them off the moon. And you can find some of these on YouTube where they try to communicate with other people around the world, but something they also will do is if they have their antenna pointed straight at the moon, they will talk or they will do, CW, the Morse code, and you can hear it. It goes up there, and then you can hear the echo of it when they turn the receiver on, and a couple seconds later, you can hear exactly what they were transmitting come back. So if there is a speed to the radio waves going up there, that's one way that you could determine how far the moon is from where they're at. I can't say how accurately, but within some certain amount of time. I mean, some certain distance.
Well, what I'll also do is I'll have
because that's something that's
Bob is also a what do you call it? The ham radio operators, and I will have him see if he can conduct that test or find out somebody who can bounce radio signals off the moon and get the distance in that fashion.
Okay, and that's called EME, Earth, Moon, Earth, and they also call it moon bounce. So if you just go on YouTube and type in EME, you get a lot of videos of that radio operators that do that. They have a lot of different things, and they talk to each other on how can we do it the best and what antenna do you use, to get the best signal and things like that.
You got my word that I will discuss that next week, and let me move on because I got more callers. But so I have it down. We're going to talk about EMEs, and we're going to talk about DXing next week. And maybe Bob will join me, or maybe Bob will give me some pointers, or it can line up some sort of test for the EME, because that certainly is interesting. And I certainly wouldn't discount any evidence that has to do with figuring out what the distance of the moon is. If we can calculate what the speed of some signal is going from here to point A to point B, and then do the same thing with a rebound off the moon, then I would guess that would be a pretty accurate way to determine a distance. Let's go to the next caller. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from?
Hello?
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 Can
you hear me?
I can.
How's it going?
It's going tremendous.
Hey, I had a quick question. I called, it's been a few months as we talked, and we had a talk about the satellite. I used to work for DirecTV, and we had some discussion about moon shadows. I don't know if you remember that.
Yep, I remember.
Okay. I was going to give you an idea, see what you thought about it. Hello?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I had a problem. So what would you think about having a person on the Globos to show that would be, let's say, a Glober, for the, in lack of a better term,
Right.
Or a neutral person. So if you had any questions in regards to any of the the globe believers or anything, that you can run it by somebody, and so that you can have two sides of the argument.
I think it's a great idea. I never even considered it. We did do a few shows. We had somebody who would win a prize to kind of be on the show with us, and a few times I did that because I was trying to find globe believers, and we didn't really get any when we tried doing that. But it's something we've discussed going back to. But I think your idea is even better. So I will definitely bring it up to the guys and see their thoughts. I don't know who we would ever pick.
Yeah, because
that kind of person, but
yeah, because I've been listening for 3 years to you and everybody else, and like I said, we had to talk. I'm open-minded. I respect the sir.
What's your name, by the way?
Carlos.
Oh, Carlos. Okay. Yeah. And so you're saying that currently you believe that we live on the globe.
Yes. Currently, I haven't seen any evidence that I can say that it's substantial to believe otherwise. Same with the moon landings. Although as time goes, I can see why there's some questions and I try to just kick out all the the programming that with lack of a better word that I had and try to be very open-minded. So I don't call flat earthers stupid, nothing like that. I know that you guys generally are trying to get into the truth. You guys are very, very good at paying attention to details. I mean, you caught a lot of stuff on footage like in SpaceX. The double video feed, that was an issue when they went and fixed it.
Right.
Stuff like that. So, I know you're a smart person and stuff. But, my thing is, I consider myself, pretty smart too, but I've been wrong also. So anyway, I'm all about, discussing and sharing ideas and everything. And I said, man, I would love to because I hear you guys talking in the Ghostbusters and about certain stuff, and it's like, why do I would love to say, hey, this is what this person's trying to say, or this is the part of their view, and I just think it would be a great idea to have a neutral or the other side, of the of the discussion, just to bring it, make it a little more interesting.
I will definitely bring it up. I think it's a great idea. I think why at first somebody might say it's not a good idea is because there's people in this movement, and many know who we're talking about, that are the Reds Rhetorics, the Sean Huffords, these other guys that have
right
and just told ridiculous lies about us. And so for us to give those people any kind of a platform or any kind of a pedestal to get up and say things when we already know what they will go to, what steps they'll go to. Now with you, I would love to have you on the show, because you're not somebody
I would love to be also.
Well, I've never heard videos of you coming out and saying, well, Jeran, did this fundraiser for $6,000 and pocketed the money, which is, there's no such thing as anything that's ever happened like that. But these are the things that these guys get away with to their audience. So,
and to give you a better idea, I would say I'm in the middle, in between, the flat earth and, these guys like, Red Rhetoric, whatever. It's a little, I even have a hard time listening to them because, it's a little too aggressive. Like, that's one thing to say, to have different beliefs and opinions, but, they go to the extent of just calling people names and stuff. And, some of the stuff, like, I agree with them or whatever, but at the same time, their format, I don't, you can't have a good conversation or debate like that. I mean, like I said, I consider myself more in the neutral side, that try to be open-minded, even though I'm not sharing the same beliefs I'm about, but you can be open-minded and talk, and I do it all the time with a bunch of people that I know that are flat earthers and stuff. And like I said, man, it'll be great to be there to answer certain questions right at the moment, instead of waiting a whole week and say, oh yeah, we looked into this and this, that, and the other, and so I would love to be part of that.
Do me a favor, send me an email to Jeranism at Yahoo and put interview in the subject line. If you do that, I'll see it because I've got a little box that those go to. And do that, and let me talk to Bob. I got to talk to him about these Earth Moon bounces and the other. And so I'll also mention that to him and see if he's interested. And even if we just try it for a week, nothing that has to be permanently installed, just something for a week, and see if it helps us kind of iron out better sometimes what is being talked about, what is the mainstream beliefs. So I think it's a great idea and appreciate that call.
Excellent. I will do that. I will send you that email and send you some of my credentials to give you an idea what kind of background I have. Hopefully that helps too. But excellent. Good talking to you, man.
You too.
Once again, I don't share a lot of the things that you talk on, believe, but I respect it. I'm tuning in, listening, and find it interesting. So once again, I'll be sending that email soon.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And that's all that I ask, to be honest, is that I don't even ask that. If you don't want to listen to me, if you don't like to hear me, if you think I am crazy, if you think the flat earth is crazy and anybody who talks about it is part of a psyop, then don't listen to me. By any stretch of the imagination, that is a foolish thing to do. But if you are okay with hearing somebody with a different opinion and you're firm enough in your beliefs about what you believe and you have honest attachment to it, more than just the indoctrinated attachment. I mean, you have you work for DirecTV, or you in some way feel that you have the backing to back your beliefs, then I want to talk to you, because I don't have a problem with that. And I would hope that you would be okay with hearing me talk and say, oh, well, I disagree with you for this reason and this reason, and let's talk it out. And the outcome of that, to me, is one of us getting closer to the truth. Either me kind of seeing what you're saying, and, oh, okay, that makes sense now, and getting closer to the truth that way, or maybe you kind of seeing what we're saying and getting closer to the truth that way. So to me, it's a no-brainer that these kind of conversations should be being had. They can't be had by these guys, Sean Hufford and these other guys. You just can't have that conversation with them anymore once they've jumped ship to they basically say everything that we've ever talked about is a lie. Jeran lies, he does it for money. Bob lies, he does it for money. But then when Bob reports on the ring laser gyro experiment and says that there was a 15 degree per hour movement picked up, and then goes on to explain why he believes that that's the case and how we can redo the test in another way to eliminate some of these potential problems. Well, these guys go on their shows and just say, and Jeran and Bob from Globebusters already proved that the Earth spins, and then move on to other things. It's like, wait, you can't discount everything we've ever said and say we're doing this all for money and we're all big liars, but we did this one test and it showed exactly what you want, and in that case we told the truth, but in every other case we're lying and we're making money. And it's just nonsense. It's just once you've seen somebody do that a few times, I don't see a reason to have that conversation with those people anymore. But Carlos, appreciate the call, and I think that that would be a good addition, and maybe people would enjoy that, because I'm all for I'm not for debate, and the reason for that is because I don't think debate means anything. People always say, who won the debate? You lost the debate. You won the debate. You lost it. Okay, great. That doesn't change the truth at all. Doesn't matter how terribly you do or I do in a debate, doesn't change the truth. And so too many people are out there about who won the debate. You lost the debate. You won the debate. And that's what they think determines the truth. That doesn't determine the truth. The truth determines itself. When you have a debate, you're trying to get your points across. Somebody else is trying to get their points across. And hopefully the listener can take both views into account and can better formulate their version of the truth. I'm not into the winning and losing. I have 2 wins and you have 1 win. He has 3 wins and you have 2. And I don't care. Could care less. I'm about the truth. I just want to get to the truth. And it's unfortunate that you have to take the abuse that I've taken just to be able to ask some of the questions I'm asking. But I certainly feel closer to the truth today than I did before I was able to ask those questions. So my hope would be that if you are open enough to hear me out, that we take it into account, and generally we should be moving closer to the truth. And that's my goal. So appreciate you guys listening. Thank you so much for bearing with us. We did take last week for the holiday off, but we are back, or I'm back, and shall continue being such. And so if you have any questions, you can email. It's hard for me to get to everything, obviously. I hope you know that. But you can become a patron at not Jeranism.com. Well, you can go to Jeranism.com, hit support, or you can go to patreon.com/Jeranism. That is another way to join the patrons. I thank all my patrons so much. You guys know who you are. I could go off and name you all by name, but you know how much you've helped me. You know how much you've helped us, and you know how much you've helped us all get closer to the truth. Couldn't thank you enough. Till next week, guys. This has been Jeranism. Be kind to each other. Peace.
Emergency Radio is your #1 source for
Hurricane Florence tell-all book. I'm Ann Cates. Hurricane Florence, now at Category 4, is taking aim at the Carolinas. Meteorologist Allison Chinchar says the big issue with Florence is the rain.
If this storm slows down once it makes landfall and stays pretty much stationary for a few days, or even if it does move, but it just doesn't move very fast, it has the potential to dump a significant amount of rain. Widespread amount, about 10 to 15